Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.
Chapter 26. Omni POV. Zeta has joined Shadow Garden for 1 month officially, and she can be seen jumping from tree to tree very expertly. She is currently doing a mission assigned to her by Shadow and Alpha, that is to infiltrate into the Elven capital and secure and locate a possessed. When she got close to the capital, she lands on top of a branch to the closest tree she could manage to find and enhanced her eyes with magic. Her cat eyes narrowed, zooming in, overlooking the security details of the main gate of the Elven capital. When she saw Elven guards scanning the perimeter, she knew that she only had one chance to sneak her way inside. Luckily, being undetected is one of her strongest skills. Using her magic, Zeta managed to hide her presence, and with great patience she managed to get inside the capital without getting caught. Normally one would just need to pay and pass through inspection to be allowed in, but since this was an Elven city, that means any other races that entered would be closely monitored, something Zeta didn't want to happen. As apart from it being an infiltration mission, it's also a testing ground for when she actually has to sneak inside other cities and towns that are owned by the Diabolos cult. Her main mission here is to infiltrate the capital and rescue a possessed. Once inside, Zeta used her cat-like agility and flexibility to maneuver herself around the buildings. As she moved building to building, her cat ears would twitch and move in different directions, hoping to hear anything that could be useful. That is until she heard, "Do you think we would have to burn the library? I'm afraid it has been tainted by her touch." Zeta looked at the direction where it came from and parkoured herself all the to the closest building. Zeta saw that she was close to a library, and in front of it was a little girl with brown hair and purple color eyes with a sleepy expression, who was tied up being pushed by 2 elf guards with poles just pushing her forward, afraid to touch her. Zeta, seeing this, just grew irritated and clicked her tongue, seeing someone being treated like that. She then looked at the shadow under her and whispered, "Call master." A hand soon appeared showing a thumbs up, signifying that he was listening. Once she saw the thumbs up, Zeta then said, "Master, there is someone here, but I can't save them at the moment. The guards are making it hard to do. If I save her now, I would soon be surrounded, making it worse." Shadow then sent her a sound transmission using magic that said, "You've done well, good job. Leave it all to me. Your next training mission is to exit without being discovered." Zeta then nodded, knowing her master could see her, and left. As for the girl, as she was being poked and pushed forward, suddenly her shadow started moving, and her shadow soon expanded, circling her. Seeing this, all the guards moved back and jumped in fright, thinking that the little girl would soon be possessed by a demon. As for the girl, she looked at the shadow underneath her in fascination. Then someone appeared exiting the shadow like the one who left it all behind. It was Shadow. And as he exited, he made a cutting motion with 2 fingers, causing the bindings that were holding the little girl in place to be cut apart. As he landed, his coat fluttered in the wind. He then extended his hand towards the girl with a sleepless expression, who was looking at him with undying curiosity. "Well then, little beauty, let's get out of here, shall we?" The girl quickly grabbed onto his hands and they both started to sink into the shadows, but before they could fully be submerged, they heard the sound of the Elven guards yell out, "Hold it right there." Shadow then turned to look at them and say no, and just sunk fully into his shadow, completely leaving the Elven capital and confusing every guard that watched such a scene. When Shadow and the girl emerged from the shadows, they appeared between the other members of the Shadow Garden by the entrance to the woods. He then turned to the sleepless girl and started to heal her demon possession, and once he was finished, the girl just kept giving him a fanatical look mixed in with endless curiosity. She wanted to learn more, to know more about him. When he finished healing her, he said, Ada is what you would be called from now on, and as of today you are a member of Shadow Garden, so what do you say? Would I be able to learn more about you?" she asked. Shadow just smiled as he said, "I'll be willing to even teach you myself." Ada, with a tired expression, just smiled and said, "Then I would like to join." And as soon as she said this, Shadow smiled and covered her entire being in shadows, and as it dissipated, Ada can be seen wearing the honorary slime suit that every member gets when they join. She started to examine it carefully and started asking questions about it, which everyone else started to answer. Alpha then started the introduction to Shadow Garden like she already has everything memorized. "We are beings that live in the shadows and hunt in the shadows." When Alpha finished explaining everything, Ada's fascination towards Shadow grew even stronger. How could it not, with the powers she saw he possessed and hearing the actual history of the past? When the introductions were over, they stood where they were awaiting for Zeta. And as they waited, they heard the sound of snoring and looked to the side where Ada was fast asleep leaning against a tree. They didn't wait long as Zeta soon appeared, and when she did, she reached out her hands towards her little brother as Beta was currently carrying him. And with that all 7 members have officially joined Shadow Garden, making the start of their many years together. 27, Chapter 27, Omni POV. It has been 6 months since the creation of Shadow Garden, and right now Sid is standing in front of a mansion with a baby carrier made out of slime with Zeta's baby brother in it, who Sid decided to name Zato, since he was too lazy to come up with a good name. The mansion. The mansion was a collective project they all decided to do when Ada joined 2 months ago. However, before they went in, Sid stopped them. Wait, I have something for you guys. Since it's been a while since the creation of Shadow Garden, and you 7 are going to be my main generals, I thought to give you something to signify such a position and setting you apart from everyone else that joins in the future. Hearing this, the girls were quite excited, since it meant they were going to be more powerful and it was a specialized gift from their Lord and Savior. And so with a single thought they were surrounded by his shadow and they sank through. They soon appeared in the middle of a field, and as they appeared, Sid made them sit around in a circle with him in the middle of them. And as he did, he then started explaining his gift to them. What I'm about to give you is the ability to utilize mana. This type of mana is different from the magic power we are born with. He then went on explaining the mana core and its uses. Now then, I want you to draw magic from the atmosphere and your magic circuit, and I want you to compress it inside your abdomen until it becomes a crystal ball. It took a while, but once everyone was finished, he nodded and then sighed and said, "Beru, come here for a moment." The bipedal ant then came out of his shadow, which caused Delta and Zeta to flinch slightly when seeing him. It looks like Beru gave them some trauma when I told him to train them, since beastkin mostly rely on instinct when fighting, just like him, thought Sid while looking at their reaction to seeing him. Sid then turned to Beru and said, "Beru, did you have to traumatize them like that? Look, they're flinching at the sight of you." Beru then went full puppy eyes on Sid. "But my liege, I had to go hard on them. How else are they going to grow stronger?" Sid just sighed and rolled his eyes and said, "Whatever." Here, Sid then carefully put Zato on Beru's arms. Zeta, seeing this, looked like she wanted to jump and run to save him. Sid then turned to Zeta and said, "Don't worry, Beru is surprisingly very good with children." Zeta then nodded hesitantly while Beru just kept looking at the baby carrier on Sid's chest. Sid just had a faint smile as he took it off and put it on Beru. Beru then grew teary and softly whispered, "My liege." Beru then carefully put Zato inside the carrier and started to play with him, and while that was happening, Sid returned to the girls. "Now where was I? Oh yes, I believe most of you have realized that the core in your bodies, although inside of you, still doesn't feel like it belongs to you. That's cause it's missing one thing, your blood, so can you please draw a bit of blood and place it where your core is and absorb it inside." All the girls then brought their thumbs to their mouth and bit down on it. Blood soon started coming out, and as they were about to put it near their abdomen, Sid stopped them. "Wait before you complete the process." The girls stopped and looked up towards Sid. Sid then just casually inserted his hand into his chest and pulled out his heart, which caused the girls to scream out in fright. Even Ada's sleeping expression was gone, just pure panic was plastered on her face. "Amayas dear." Even Beru screamed out, "My liege." Even though Beru knows he's immortal, it doesn't mean he likes to see the one he serves getting hurt. Sid getting hurt is a failure towards him. If his master ever gets hurt, it means he failed at his duties at being his royal guard. Sid then shows his chest. "Relax, I'm not hurt, I'm perfectly fine." "But how?" Alpha softly whispered out, looking at his heart in his hands and his chest that was completely clear from any scar. If it wasn't for the blood in the spot where his heart was, they wouldn't have never guessed that heart belonged to him. All the other girls shared Alpha's sentiment and just looked at the scene in shock. Sid then awkwardly scratched his cheek. I kinda forgot to mention. I'm immortal, so yeah, I can't really die." The girls screamed out again, but this time louder, "Whhhhaatt." It was so loud that even the birds nearby got scared and flew away. Zeta then faintly whispers, "He can communicate with the dead, he can bring them back to life, he can manipulate reality, he can command the heaven, and he's immortal. He's a god." Zeta's eyes then turn worshipful as if wanting to bow down towards the floor and pray for his guidance. The others who heard her were close to agreeing as well. While Ada just continued to look analytically at the black heart in his hands. Why is it black? Even though it's out of his chest, it's pulsating with power. Is it the source of his powers? No, if it was, he wouldn't be able to regenerate and he wouldn't have taken it out so easily. The more time I spend with Master, the more I want to know. I'm really starting to like this, Ada thought while sensually licking her lips towards the end. If anyone else saw her do what she just did, they would have assumed she wanted to eat it. Luckily, everyone else's gaze is locked in Sid's black heart. Sid then squished the heart that he was holding, and as he squished it, blood sprayed everywhere. Luckily, Sid stopped it just in time with his magic and started to manipulate the blood directly. Ever since Sid's mana core and black heart merge, Sid has found it much easier to manipulate the elements in a broader scale. For example, blood, it's the same as manipulating water. Before it was harder to do such a thing, as blood was a whole other element of its own, but since the merging, that barrier that separated the elements is now lifted. So blood manipulation has turned into a byproduct of being able to manipulate water. And so as the blood sprayed everywhere, Sid managed to stop it and bring it closer and started turning it into a ball and compress it. When he finished compressing it, 7 blood droplets soon appeared, and those 7 droplets were giving off a purple shine and were just floating in the air. Sid's expression then got serious. "Girls, what I'm about to do next is something extremely serious, and for me to do this I have to know. Do you trust me with your life?" Alpha and everyone responded at the same time without an ounce of hesitation. Absolutely. Alpha then stood up and walked forward, and as she did, she knelt down on one knee and put a hand over her chest. My lord, I think I speak for everyone when I say without you we would all have been dead, so you could do with my life as you see fit. Beta then stepped forward and knelt down next to Alpha. My lord, you impart your infinite knowledge onto me, and that is something I would forever be grateful for, so you could do with my life as you see fit. Gamma then followed up with teary eyes. Even though I am useless, my lord still makes sure I'm alright and always motivates to keep getting better, and for that you could use this one's useless life as you see fit. Delta, seeing what everyone was doing, just knelt like them but just gave Sid a thumbs up. Boss man is the pack leader, and as the leader he should be able to do with my life as he pleases. Epsilon then joined. Without my lord I would have been left for dead, but he took me in and has continued making me stronger and better, so you can do with my life if that please you. It then Zeta's turn. It's thanks to Master that I'm not alone in this world. You saved not only me but my baby brother as well. If using my life pleases you, then so be it. Lastly, Ada followed up with, I always learn something new when I'm with you, Lord Shadow, and it never gets boring, so please use my life and body to your leisure. Sid then softly exhaled and with a faint smirk said, very well then let's begin, and with that they all went and sat cross-legged again. Sid then manipulated the blood that the girls drew and brought it and merged it with the 7-droplet. Once he finished, he moved the 7 drops and placed them on their stomach, and as it made contact the crystal orb absorbed the blood. And as it got absorbed, 7 different explosions happened simultaneously due to the formation of their mana core. Due to Sid's blood what was infused with his power and mana, their mana core went through some changes. Instead of it starting in the red stage, it started at the solid orange stage. Meanwhile, the size of their core is beyond normal, it's twice the size that it should have been. When he finished, he then spread his arms slightly and said, and with this your lives are interconnected with me. Meaning as long as I live you do as well, making you effectively immortal as well. 28. Chapter 28. Author's Note. Okay, thread questions. 1. Should I make this story a potential multiverse story in the future, and if so, what do you recommend? 2. Since OG Sid, I am atomic, move is the representation of his desire to surpass a nuke, should I keep the line the same as it is, or should I come up with an original line when performing a similar move or replicating it? 3. Should I introduce chakra into the mix of power systems? P.S. Some of you are going to hate it, but every one of the characters has to get at least a bit of dialogue or a paragraph about them. It's not going to be always, but I don't want to leave anyone out and be exclusive. P.S. to the P.S. Don't know if that has a name. I'm trying to show that the MC, although only known them for a short time, truly cares about each and every one of them. Omni POV. Hearing him, the girls just stood there in shock. They were too stunned to be able to express how they were feeling at the moment. Even though they felt invigorated due to the abundance of energy they received, they were still frozen in shock. Sid, seeing them shocked, just said, that wasn't all that was in the droplet. There is also a skill that hides your magical and physical presence, making you completely undetectable. And finally, the ability to control shadows. This one just gives you the ability, it doesn't make you an expert at it. You would have to train hard in order to make it a good skill to have, so everything is up to you. Alpha then lowered her head slightly and asked, but my lord, how are we ever going to repay your kindness? These blessings you have given us, how could we ever thank you? They suddenly felt themselves being washed by an unexpected energy they couldn't comprehend. It was Sid's will, his conqueror's haki washed over them, suppressing them slightly as his eyes glowed a tiny bit. The only way to can repay me is by becoming an unparalleled existence. Become so strong that my gifts to you don't go to waste and became something meaningless. Failing to do so would be considered an act of betrayal. Everyone's eyes grew in shock, not expecting such a thing. They all suddenly knelt down once again and in unison said, by your will. Sid then nodded, and as he did he said, well, enough of that. You guys can start practicing your new power system. Tusk and the other magically inclined shadows would help you with that, and with that Tusk came out of Sid's shadow, followed by shadow soldiers wearing wizard robes. And as Tusk did, he crossed his arms and gave an intimidating grin, promising to push them through the ringer, which caused some of the members to smile wearily. And with that they started to test out their mana control and trying to control the different elements until late in the night. Sid then gathered everyone and took them back into the mansion, and as he did, the girls were amazed by the interior. Even though they helped build it, taking a look at the completed project is a whole different story. They then started to explore the entire place, the different kind of rooms, unseen utilities Sid made, what they do, and their own bedrooms. They then all went into the kitchen where Sid said he cooked something for them. Luckily the shadows helped out since he made a lot due to Delta's stomach. Well, what are you waiting for, let's eat. And with that everyone soon took a seat and started digging into it with stars in their eyes due to how good and unique some of the dishes were. They never tasted anything like this. After everyone finished eating, Sid then started to tuck everyone to bed. I feel like a dad taking care of everyone. What has my life come to? One moment I'm talking about reaching the pinnacle of existence and the next I'm putting them to bed. Well, I guess this could be practice when I have kids of my own in the future. Kids of my own, huh? I really haven't thought about it. This is my 3rd lifetime and I yet to have a kid in any life. But that thinking could wait, I'm still only 10 after all. Sid first started with Alpha. He tucked her into bed and kissed her in the forehead. He then went into Beta's room where he proceeded to continue where he left off in the stories he told. He continued the story using the light elements to make projections. Straw boy, I came to save you, in the name of friendship. Beta was just laying in bed crying, bawling her eyes out, and when he finished he kissed her forehead and headed to the next room. Sid, when he came into Gamma's bed, started patting her head, and as he did he said, I hope you liked my gift out of everyone else. Gamma under the covers just looked at Sid in surprise. She rapidly blinked her eyes as she asked me, but why my lord, while pointing at herself. Sid then scoffed, don't think I don't keep a close eye on you guys. I know that recently you have been feeling depressed and unworthy to be in Shadow Garden just cause you aren't physically gifted like the other members are. Gamma's eyes then grew wide and with teary eyes covered her head under the blanket. Sid just faintly smiled as he lightly draped the covers off of her. Calm down, you were never meant to be a physical fighter in the first place, you were just never meant for it. Gamma hearing this was just an inch away from crying. All she ever wanted to do is be able to fight alongside her master, to be able to support him in battle. Being told she wasn't born for such a thing broke her heart. You weren't meant to be a physical fighter, you're made to be a magical one. Your strength isn't your body, it's your mind. Gamma. With the mana core in place, now you don't have to really move a lot in battle, which was one of your previous weaknesses due to your clumsiness. You can stay where you are and fire crazy new spells you come up with. I have full faith in you to be an amazing powerful witch in the future. Gamma, hearing how someone say they believe in her, especially that someone being her lord, the one person she doesn't want to disappoint, started silently crying. The tears just came out, flowing out without her being able to stop it. Sid then stood up and reached into his shadow. He then pulled out a purple witch hat with a black broom and presented it to her. Images. Here, I made these just for you, my little witch. Gamma then stood up with a happy shout and with an excited expression asked, really, my lord? For me? She then jumped out of bed and rushed to him and wrapped her arms around him, giving him a big hug. And with her close by, Sid just put the hat on her head. Once Gamma felt the hat on her head, she jumped back from Sid and started twirling around, which caused her to trip, and as she was about to fall she started swinging her arms wildly to balance herself. She managed to stop herself with her arms spread widely, which she quickly followed by covering half her face with a hand and laughing weirdly. Coo, 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 coo. What do you think, my shadowy lord? Pick of pose. Sid then started clapping lightly with a faint smile. Oh, very good. Gamma then just continued to laugh weirdly while still holding the pose. Coo, 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 coo. Thank you, my lord. Gamma then got embarrassed and turned red. She then grabbed onto her hat and lowered it further down to hide her face. Sid just shook his head. Alright, go to bed and we could test out the flying broom tomorrow. Gamma then lifted her head from her hat and said, flying broom? That broom can fly. Sid then looked at Gamma in confusion. Yes, why else would I give you a broom with a witch's hat? Gamma then tilted her head. I thought master wanted me to clean something for him. Which caused Sid to stifle laughter. PHTTT, no, why would I do that? He then knocked her slightly on the head. Now for real, it's time for bed. Gamma then just nodded and jumped onto bed and covered herself and looked towards Sid expectantly. Sid playfully scoffed at such actions and went towards Gamma and kissed her on the forehead. Which he then went towards Delta's room, and when he entered he found Delta sitting on the bed with a brush on her lap and her pouting. You're late. Sorry, I had something to talk about with Gamma. Delta, while still pouting, just held out the brush. Brush tail now, please. Sid then just simply grabbed the brush and started brushing her hair, which caused her to wag her tail in delight. Sid, when finished, then started brushing her tail, which made Delta let out an affectionate growl after each stroke. And with a kiss to the forehead after he was finished, he went towards Epsilon, and when he was done with her he went towards Zeta's room. Author's note: if y'all couldn't tell, I couldn't find shit to do with Epsilon. With Zeta, Sid just stayed a bit with her and her baby brother that was staying in a crib close to her. He played with her ears a bit, scratching the back of it, which caused her to purr a bit, and with that he followed what he has done with everyone else, kissed her forehead and went towards Ada's room. Ada was just in bed with her limbs all over the place, spread eagle, sleeping her trouble away and snoring like there's no tomorrow, which caused Sid to slightly chuckle and kiss her forehead as well and leave. Instead of going to sleep in this house, however, he went back home where he found his sister waiting for him again. Seeing her, Sid then started to tease her, trying to assault me again, which caused her to blush. It was only one time, plus you gave me a kiss of your own, so I say we're technically even. I mean, you are competitive and always want to win. For you it's either a win or a loss, there could never be a even. So I gotta keep my guard up so you don't one-up me. You're such a bastard, I hope you know that. I aim to please, what can I say? I don't even know why I love you. Oh, already throwing the L word around after just one kiss. Take me to dinner first. You know I meant it as a familial love. I don't know, that kiss to the lips says something else. Claire at this point just got up to leave, and as she did she just says, I hate you. You literally said you loved me like 5 seconds ago. Are you sure you're not suffering from any bipolar disorder? We could always get mom to get you checked out. Claire didn't even have the energy to retort and just left. When she left, Sid just let out a breath of exhaustion as he sank onto his bed. Who knew trying to get your sister off your back to stop asking questions about where I was the whole night would be so exhausting. And with that, Sid closed his eyes, falling asleep. I have 2 fanfics, so in order to not overwhelm myself, I'ma do one day this one and the other one the next day. So yeah, there's no chapter tomorrow, but there is one the day after that one. 29, Chapter 29. Omni POV. 3 years later. Sid can be seen walking down the corridor of the Kajino household while reading a book about ancient languages and magic circles. A door suddenly shot open as a hand grabbed his shirt and pulled him inside, making him drop his book. Sid was then pulled inside a room, which was quickly followed by the door closing and the sound of the door being locked. Sid was then pushed against the door and pulled in for a kiss. Claire then put a hand over the back of Sid's hair and pulled him in closer, getting more and more passionate with each second. Chumwaya Kiis. After a few minutes, Claire had to distance herself to be able to breathe. Huff huff huff. Sid, with his hands wrapped around Claire's waist, said, "Well, someone's clearly excited today." Claire, who had her arms around his neck, was still breathing heavily. "Since I'm 15 now, that means I have to go to school, which also mean I would have less time to see you, so I thought, why not enjoy it?" Sid just looks at Claire with a raised brow. "Enjoy it? It looks to me that you're more than enjoying it. You were trying to eat my face with that attack." Rolling her eyes, Claire just scoffed, "Oh please, like you didn't enjoy it. If you didn't, you wouldn't have kissed me back." Faintly chuckling, Sid then pulls Claire closer. "You're right, I did enjoy it. Why don't we continue where we left off?" Claire only gave him a sensual look before pulling him back into a long kiss. When they finally disconnected, Claire left out a satisfied sigh before leaving the room, skipping along and swinging her arms in a happy manner. When Sid made sure Claire was gone, his shadow started moving and handed him the book he was reading. Sid, while still leaning against the door, just went back to reading, and while reading he just started talking. "So did you find its location, Alpha?" Alpha, undoing her stealth skill, just sighed and looked at the door from which Claire exited with a bit of jealousy, as expected of Master. "Even after trying to remain undetected, you still managed to find me. As for if we were successful at discovering it, I am happy to announce that it was a success. Although we were only able to look at it from afar, we were still able to encounter it, only if it's briefly." While still looking at the book, Sid nodded. "Good job. Get everyone ready. It's time for you guys to watch as I officially gain the title as a Dragon Slayer and we get an official base of operation." Hearing that she gets to watch her master fight a legendary beast, she got quite excited. Maybe we would be able to watch Master fight at full strength. She gave Sid a final bow as she began to sink into her very own shadow. Over the years, one of the many things Alpha along with the others focused on was their use of shadows. Their thinking was, if I could perfect my uses of shadows, I could be one step closer towards Master and maybe he'll notice me. Which motivated them to work harder and grow stronger faster. Surprisingly, the one that showed the most results was actually Gamma. Although it didn't start out great, like when she first tried out the flying broom, the first time she got on she started rolling in place and didn't know how to stop. And when Sid helped her, her head was just bopping all over the place until she just threw up where she stood. It was a sorry sight to see. Luckily she got better and her hard work paid off, although now she doesn't take the hat Sid gave her off and keeps it with her at all time. So thanks to their dedication, all 7 girls were able to learn a few new spells with their shadows, like the ability to travel through them, which was what Alpha was showcasing. When Alpha reappeared again, she was in front of the other 6 that were sitting down in a meeting room waiting for her. Alpha then sat down at the end of the table where the second largest seat was located, leaving the main and largest seat in the front empty, as that was for their lord and master. Pick of the table. Alpha was then the one to initiate the conversation. "Alright then, our meeting has now officially commenced. For our first matter of topic, it looks like this place is getting too small to hold the current members of Shadow Garden, and due to our many members we are becoming more conspicuous towards the cult." Gamma then added, "You're right, this place is too small. I can't even start our farming projects I am excited to try. Master has given us so many ideas and knowledge that it'd be a shame to not try it out. With all these ideas, just imagine the money we would make." Beta, looking at the current data she has gathered, then added, "If Gamma can get started on her projects, we would be able to solve our current money problems we have due to currently having too many members." Delta, who had her head lying on the table, just asked, "Why don't we just ask the boss man for more money? I'm sure he wouldn't mind giving us some." Zeta just rolled her eyes. "You stupid mud, of course he wouldn't mind. Our lord is generous like that, but we shouldn't be taking advantage of his kindness. If we always asked him to always solve our problems, then our existence would be meaningless." Delta just turned her head towards Zeta's direction and started growling. "Grrrr. Stop it, both of you. We are still in a meeting. You can continue your fighting afterwards," Alpha demanded. Delta and Zeta just humphed at each other and turned their head at the opposite direction from each other, which caused the other members to just shake their heads at their usual antics. Alpha just continued, "We don't have to worry about where we are going to relocate. Thanks to Master giving us the chance to locate a dragon near the sacred land Lindworm, we were able to find to a suitable place to build our headquarters. Thanks to Zeta's investigation, we were able to find both the ancient city of Alexandria and the mist dragon that resides over it." Zeta then jumps in. "It wasn't easy to find either, especially because of that mist surrounding the area. Its magical properties distorts people's senses and it's extremely poisonous. Luckily I was the one to go and explore the area. If it wasn't at least one of us, that person would most likely be dead. The mist that surrounds it also has the ability to create normal level illusions. That's the perfect place for our base. It's isolated, it's protected by a strong and potent mist, and it even has a guardian protecting it," added Epsilon, getting excited about moving. Alpha then stood up from where she was sitting. "Well, we have to end this meeting on a short note. Master wants us to go with him when he fights the dragon. He demands our presence." However, before they left, Alpha called Lambda, a dark elf they saved. Once she appeared, Alpha then said, "We are going on a mission. Since Master is coming, it should be a short one, so we are leaving you in charge. Pick." Lambda then gives Alpha a military salute expressing her acceptance towards her new orders. Alpha, seeing her salute her, then nods, dismissing her. And once she left, they all stood up. Already wearing their slime suit, they all stood up from the table and started to sink into their shadow. And when they appeared, they found their master's shadow sitting close to the mist on a rock waiting for them with a book on his hands. When the girls first saw him, they looked at him in admiration, as expected of Master. Even when he knows everything, he still takes time to read and study. He's so studious and he looks so perfect while doing it too. Seeing that they all arrived, Shadow just throws the book back into his shadow. "Well, it's about time you guys show up. Epsilon, since you're the one with the most magical control, you're the one in front alongside Delta. With her senses, it should be easy for you guys to navigate the Abyss Woods." With the two of them in front, everyone soon follows their lead while Shadow is just in the back, quite excited about fighting a dragon. "I could finally try on my finishing moves I've been making, on an actual opponent. I'm definitely going to enjoy this one quite a bit." Although slowly, the girls managed to maneuver their way through the thick mist thanks to their combined efforts. With one final step, they all arrived a few meters before the abandoned ancient city, but before they could take another step forward, an angered voice was soon heard. "Who dares intrude in this noble's one abode? WOSSSHHHH. The sound of wind was then overheard as a colossal dragon made its way over them and with a large thump landed right in front of them. Pick of dragon. The dragon then released a bit of his dragon fear to intimidate them. "You people sure are foolish if you think you can just enter this one's territory without any consequences." Shadow then releases his own dragon fear, shocking the dragon greatly. "You're the fool if you think you have the necessary strength to be able to give out any consequences towards this monarch." When the girls saw their master willing face the dragon head on protecting them, their already high admiration reached even higher. "Master, he's not even fazed by the dragon's might." Beta just takes out a notebook from somewhere that says, "The Shadow Monarch's Legacy." Beta then opens the book and start to quickly move her pen, which she also pulled from who knows where, and write down while whispering rapidly. Without even an ounce of hesitation, the Shadow Monarch, the ruler of life and death, stood face to face with the dragon of dread and dreams, showcasing their mights to one another. Meanwhile, Sid and Dragon stood face to face. How could a human possess the abilities of a dragon? Sid just casually shrugs. "I am just built different. Before we even get to fight each other, how about you get a warm-up with my girls? Who knows how many years you spent without fighting, you're probably still rusty and need to fight it off. I want to fight you when you're at your best." The girls, listening to their conversation, squeal slightly in their minds. "He call me his girl." The dragon then scoffs at the human's proposal. "You sure are arrogant for a human, but I believe that arrogance is justified if your aura I felt earlier is any indicator." Sid then lets out a burst of his conqueror's haki. "It's not arrogance, it's pride and confidence in my abilities that I honed throughout my life. Plus I want to see how far my pupils have come and how strong they have gotten." The dragon then narrows his eyes and thinks for a few seconds. "Very well, human, I shall entertain your idea, but don't think for a second I won't be going for the kill. In return I want you to promise me something." Shadow then nodded his head. "If it's something that's not too difficult to accomplish, then very well. If those girls don't manage to kill me, I want you to do it." Before anyone can ask anything, the dragon then stated, "Due to the magical nature that covers the world, plus the one that is impregnated in the body of the dragons at the genetic level, the dragon species are practically immortal, so they don't need to eat or drink anything. Nor can they die from hunger, old age, dryness, disease, poison, among other natural things, although if they like, they can eat or drink things if they want. So even if the magic power of their bodies is exhausted, or if they suffer heavy damage, be it to their head, chest, heart or others, said normal wounds will return to normal as if nothing happened. The only way to kill a dragon is to completely annihilate their entire being." "I see. Very well, I shall complete your wish on the condition that I can do with your corpse as I see fit. Didn't I just say that you need to completely annihilate my body in order to kill me? There won't be a corpse left. That's for me to worry about. I can still kill you and keep your corpse intact, don't worry. So do we have a deal?" "You are very greedy for a human. You should control your desires or they will become the death of you." Shadow then looked at the dragon like he was an idiot. "So you want me to leave a perfectly good dragon corpse out here to rot, when I could make great use of it? Don't be a dumbass. As for controlling my desires, when you're as strong as I am you are free to indulge in them and do as you please. I will do no such thing as put a limit onto myself, no matter how small. No matter how small such limits are, they will only slow me down on my conquest to being a supreme being in the Omniverse. And as for death, death isn't something that should be feared, it's something that should be appreciated, and when their time comes they should embrace it." And with that, Shadow started walking away from the dragon. Once he was a good few meters away, he controlled his shadows and made a throne out of it. Once he sat on it, he just put a leg on the arm rest and rested his head on the other arm rest while leaning on his fist. He then looked at the girls and said, "Do a good enough job and I shall reward you, any gift that you desire." Shadow then saw the lust in their eyes and added, "But if I deemed it to be inappropriate I shall decline it and ask you to ask for something else." Which caused the girls to be disheartened slightly, but quickly got back their fighting spirit as they would still be rewarded by their master. The girls quickly turned towards the dragon and gave him a battle-hungry smile, which caused him to release a drop of sweat. They really got this excited over a gift. What could these girls possibly want? Shadow then spoke once again to the girls. Oh, by the way, if you guys even want a chance to even put a scratch on him, you would have to work together. Alpha, hearing her master, then got into a fighting position, which was quickly followed by everyone else. The dragon then started to flap his wings as well, taking to the sky. And with that, the showdown between the Mist Dragon and Shadow Garden was about to begin. Author's note: should the girls gain special abilities from eating the dragon, growing scales, growing wings, dragon-looking eyes, the ability to breath fire? Or should they just get slightly stronger, just making their magic more potent and their physique stronger, and that's it? And if I do give the girls dragon eyes, what abilities should it have? 30, Chapter 30. Omni POV. As Shadow sat in the throne, Beru and Igris then appeared and stood at opposite side of each other as if protecting their master and awaiting for any orders, which was followed by Kaisel appearing as well and wrapping his long body around the throne and laying his head on Shadow's lap. Shadow then just chuckled slightly and started petting him, which made Kaisel let out a faint happy growl. Shadow, while petting Kaisel, then put his attention on the girls as they got into a fighting position awaiting for Alpha's order. Alpha, as she got in position, summoned a sword out of slime and kicked off the ground, making it cave in slightly as she made her way towards the dragon. While running, Alpha started coating her sword with wind magic, and when she got close enough she sent out a flying slash, that was powered by her might and magic. Although the dragon just moved out of the way and started gathering magic into his mouth. Alpha running was the indication to start as everyone else started to spread out slightly. Beta jumped back and conjured a bow made out of fire, and as she pulled back on the string made out of flames, 3 flame arrows formed just waiting to be fired. While Gamma called forth her broom from her shadow and just sat on it sideways and started to fly. Once in the sky, Gamma spread her arms slightly as she started to conjure a ball of flames on each hand. The dragon, once he was done charging, let out a beam of magical power from his mouth and started to move it around, trying to at least get one of the girls. Gamma just flew behind the dragon and threw both balls of flames on its back, which exploded on impact. Boom boom. Due to the force of the explosion on its back, the dragon was blown lower to the ground, which gave Beta the perfect opportunity to fire the arrows. While Beta fired the arrows, which she wrapped the element of wind around it, taking away any wind resistant that may disturb the trajectory of the arrow. All 3 arrows landed on the snout of the dragon, exploding as soon as it made contact. Boom boom boom. Due to the explosion, the trajectory of the beam shifted slightly, not getting enough time to hit any of the girls. The ground around Alpha then started to crack open as roots came out from under her. Alpha used the roots to guide herself towards the dragon, and once she was close enough she started wrapping the dragon with roots and vines. Once the dragon was stuck in place, Alpha then proceeded to attack the dragon using her sword. Slashes after slashes marks kept appearing on the dragon's body. Although it was only slightly due to the dragon's scales, Alpha, using the magic from her magic circuit, enhanced herself to be able to give the dragon even deeper wounds. Delta, wanting to get some action of her own, proceeded to start running alongside the roots, using them as a foothold, and when she got on top of the dragon she proceeded to do backflips to build momentum, which she used for driving her fist on top of the dragon's head. The force of Delta's punch alongside her physical enhancements were so powerful it forced the dragon's mouth to shut close and slam it onto the ground. The dragon, getting tired of being ganged up on, started gathering magic on the middle of his chest and started to compress it and build up even more magic, while the girls were just senselessly attacking. The girls, sensing the great danger, started to back away. Luckily they did it just in time. As soon as they were far away, the dragon let out a blast of magic from the center of his being that started to encompass everything around it. That attack was so powerful that everything it started touching was disintegrating. And with a loud roar the dragon was then freed from its confines. ROARRR. Luckily the girls anticipated the dragon's earlier action and managed to escape on time to not get caught up in the blast. All of the wounds it gained during the fight then started to heal back up, which caused the girls to click their tongue in annoyance. Epsilon then started making icicle spears with her magic and started to launch them towards the dragon, which the dragon would just dodge. Epsilon, seeing that her spells weren't working, decided to send out a gigantic ice blast, which caught the dragon by surprise and managed to freeze its wings slightly, making it slower and difficult to dodge attacks. Ada, seeing her chance, started gathering fire magic and mixing it with wind magic, feeding it off each other, making it hotter and grander. I believe Milord called this a chemical reaction. She thought as the ball of fire in front of her kept changing colors. Ada, gaining a twisted smile, said out loud, "Finally I'm able to have a test subject for my experiments." When the fire turned a bright purple she released it towards the dragon. The fireball quickly turned into a blast that just as quickly engulfed the dragon. When the blast was over, the dragon could be seen on the ground with broken wings and body all scorched up. Without much thinking, Zeta followed up by turning her slime into a scythe and skillfully maneuvering it around her body. When she got in front of the dragon she swung her scythe towards its neck, completely decapitating it. That should have been the end for the dragon. Keyword should. The dragon, not wanting it to go this way, enhanced his regeneration, completely regenerating his head. With a roar the dragon swung its tail towards Zeta, completely sending her flying and crashing into Ada, who was in her line of sight. The dragon then wrapped his tail around Alpha and started slamming her onto the ground. Back and forth, which was followed by sending her flying towards Gamma in the air, completely knocking her down from the sky. The dragon then proceeded to gather magic power in his throat and shoot it out into the sky. Once it was high enough, it broke off into 7 pieces and started to target all of the girls. Zeta quickly got off Ada and cut the magic in half with her scythe. Ada just conjured a barrier with attributeless mana alongside Epsilon. Beta just summoned slime from her suit and made it into a bow to not waste more magic than she needs to. She then pulled back on the string and conjured an arrow made out of wind and shot it towards the projectile that was approaching her. As the wind arrow and projectile made contact, they cancelled out each other. Alpha just seamlessly cut the magic in half just like Zeta, while Gamma just sat back on her broom and started to fly away. But the projectile just kept following her, until she grew tired of it and sent out a bolt of electricity from her hands and destroyed it without much effort. As for Delta, she just gave off a crazed smile and punched the projectile, sending it flying towards the trees where it exploded on impact. Alpha, already getting tired of not doing any significant damage and just getting played around like a toy, got pissed off. She started to enhance herself to her maximum capacity. Blue color magic power then started to materialize out of her. Now, instead of the materialized magic power flowing aimlessly, Alpha controlled that magic and wrapped it around her sword. She then got into a fighting position once again while pointing her sword towards the dragon, and without any hesitation used Soru, as she disappeared from everyone's eyes, except Shadows, who was watching everything while petting Kaisel. When Alpha's sword made contact with the dragon's scale, instead of any friction, her sword just swiped through it cleanly without any resistance. Swipe after swipe after swipe after swipe after swipe, the dragon kept on getting new wounds without his other ones having the opportunity to close fully and heal. While Alpha was swinging her sword bisecting the dragon, Beta pulled back on the string of her bow and materialized 2 arrows out of fire. The fire that was used was so hot that it was a bit difficult to hold it for long. Seeing the perfect opportunity, she let go of the string, setting the arrows free. The arrows were so hot that they burned away any wind resistance that were slowing them down and quickly made their way into the dragon's eyes. Feeling the arrows burning away its eyes, the dragon started to scream out in pain and agony. With the dragon blinded, Epsilon, using wind magic, quickly flew towards the thrashing dragon and got close to its ear. She then took a deep breath and proceeded to shout right inside. Sonic burst, she said before enhancing her shouts with sound magic, making the dragon completely brain dead due to the damage it caused. While brain dead, Alpha didn't stop even once and was quickly joined in by Zeta and Delta, who conjured a great sword with slime and started to bash onto the dragon with it. They continued to cut the dragon until it was in pieces. Ada and Gamma then joined together and started to make a large thunder cloud. Ada, clearly excited, then just yelled out, "Taste the power of science," as they both started to send down bolts of electricity onto the hacked pieces of the dragon. Everyone soon started to catch their breath after their long battle. Soon the leftover pieces of the dragon started to come together and stitch itself back together, forming the dragon once again, although clearly it was slightly out of breath. "Huff huff, you girls are clearly something." Huff huff, allow this dragon to say, "You have gained my recognition, you girls are strong, be proud." The girls then looked at each and just smiled, and all of them turned towards their master awaiting praises. "Okay, my beautiful people, I need your help once again. I can't find a good picture for their future base of operation. Please help. I looked everywhere and could find a good one. And Shadow Garden needs a base, please. I'm on my hands and knees." 31, Chapter 31. Surprise Chapter. Reason: this FIC has reached 1 million views. Yii. Thank you everyone for the support. Omni POV. When everyone turned their head and looked at Shadow awaiting their praise, he just continued smiling and petting Kaisel without a change of expression. "Are you girls satisfied with your victory, or rather battle with dragon?" Shadow asked softly. Even though it was in a low voice, everyone heard it. The girls then looked at each and then at Shadow and nodded their head, clearly satisfied. The smile in Shadow's face quickly turned upside down and made into a frown, which made the girls quickly panic. Wrong answer. And with that, Shadow started to stand up, lifting Kaisel's head from his lap, and as he stood up, the throne was quickly coming undone and going into his shadow, followed by Igris, Beru, and Kaisel, who went back into his shadow. Shadow's Conqueror's Haki then blasted at full force, making the girls quickly drop to the ground and the dragon lower its head slightly. He then started walking towards the dragon and the girls while talking. "What the hell you mean you're satisfied with that shit? You all ganged up on him, all 7 of you, and all you managed to do was just make him slightly out of breath. And you're satisfied with that? 1. If you fought him on your own, you would have been dead. 2. He was clearly holding back, it was saving its magic for when we fight, which he is a dumbass for doing that. And 3. His attention was divided against the 7 of you. And you're saying you're satisfied with that? Disappointing, truly disappointing." The girls hearing this got teary-eyed. The last thing they ever wanted was to disappoint their master. So hearing him say he was disappointed with them broke them slightly. The dragon hearing this was quite shocked. Why are you so hard on them? I think they did splendidly. Even I said that I recognized their strengths and power, so why are you disappointed in their strength and power? Huh, who the fuck needs your recognition? What's your recognition going to do to them? I'll tell you what your recognition is going to do to them, give them a massive fucking ego and get themselves killed, that's what. So you can take your recognition and shove it up your arse. The dragon was too stunned to even speak properly, appalled by his behavior, but before the dragon could get his bearings, Shadow continued speaking. Sigh, it looks like nobody listens to me when I speak. Since when did I say I was disappointed with their strengths and powers? I couldn't be prouder of the girls they're becoming and of how strong they have grown since I met them. Tears started flowing unwillingly from the girl's eyes, not expecting to hear that from him. Meanwhile the dragon just got even more confused. Then what is it that you're disappointed by? You humans are one confusing species. What I'm disappointed about is that they are satisfied in their current strength. Hearing this, the eyes of the dragon and the watery eyes of the girls grew wide in shock. They should never, and I mean never, be satisfied with their strength. Such actions are unacceptable in my eyes. The moment one deems one's own strength sufficient and satisfactory is the moment that it turns into complacency and they stop growing stronger. I have said previously that I have pride and confidence in my own strength and power, but not once have I said I am satisfied with it. I want more strength, more power. Shadow then stops and thinks to himself, I guess the original Sid and I aren't that different if I think about it. Anyways, as I was saying, I am just disappointed that they were satisfied with their current powers. They were about to turn complacent and stop growing stronger and getting better. They have the potential for it, but when they're satisfied, then that potential is wasted. I hope that satisfied your questioning, and as for why I'm hard on them, it's cause I love them. What other reason do I need? This caused the hearts of the girls to skip a beat. He said that he love me. The girls then started turning into a blushing mess, not expecting their master to confess to them. Meanwhile Ada just gave her master eyes full of unadulterated lust, as if wanting to rip off his clothes and do him right there in front of everyone. Consequences be damned. Shadow, already getting tired of talking, started to levitate off the ground with his coat fluttering in the wind. He then picked up the girls with ruler's authority and put them a few feet away so they could see his fight. He proceeded to engulf them in a barrier to protect them from the shockwaves and force of their battle. When he was up towards the dragon's head, he went and placed a hand on its face, and once it made contact he started to use healing magic on the dragon. What are you doing? I'm perfectly fine, there's no need to heal me, said the dragon, bewildered by Shadow's strange actions. You may be physically fine but not your magic power. The girls slightly depleted it, and I want to fight you at your peak. And stop talking, your existence has almost reached its character limit. Why you dash? The dragon grew angry with the unexpected trash talk. Once the dragon was back towards its peak, Shadow backed away and they both stood a good distance from each other. Once they were a good distance away, they just kept staring at each other, waiting for the first person to make their moves. Shadow, not being the type to wait for something so useless, acted first, and disappeared from everyone's view and reappearing in front of the dragon. Due to the unexpected appearance, the dragon got quite frightened and tried to back away but failed to do so, as Shadow just sent a right hook with his enhanced fist, sending the dragon crashing into the ground and creating a crater. Shadow quickly followed after it and grabbed the dragon by its tail and started to swing him around in circles. And once it got a few good spins in, Shadow sent it flying and crashing into trees, destroying them in the process. Shadow followed after once again but was attacked by the dragon swatting his tail at it. Luckily he was able to block it on time by coating his arms in armament haki and positioning them in front of himself. Although due to the force and power of the dragon he was flying and crashing into the ground with dust flying everywhere. Once the dust cleared, the dragon appeared in front of Shadow with a beam of magic already charged and fired it towards him. As for Shadow, he was perfectly fine, and when he saw the beam of magic coming towards him he didn't panic and just coated his hand with the element of death. As soon as the dragon's magic beam and Shadow's hand made contact, the dragon's beam started to die, not going any further and just dying as soon as it made contact. The dragon, seeing this, just put more power, making the beam grow even larger, trying to overpower Shadow, but Shadow just kept his hand in front of him. Slowly Shadow started levitating with his arms still stretched out and made his way closer and closer towards the dragon. Once they were face to face, Shadow started to get into a punching position, standing on the air as if there were a platform, and with a fist just an inch off the dragon's face Shadow spoke. But he wasn't speaking towards the dragon, he was speaking to the girls that were watching everything in shock. Wanna know something interesting? Sound is just vibrating air. Now what happens when you turn that vibration to another level? The beings get pulverized. As soon as Shadow said the last part, he performed the 1-inch punch, destroying the dragon completely, sending blood just flying everywhere. Sid then slowly started coming down from the sky and waited for the dragon to regenerate itself back again. While waiting he turned towards the girls and saw Beta once again writing on her book while muttering, and the Shadow Monarch barely moving his fist completely obliterates the dragon, saving the Princess Beta from his wicked hands. Beta then started to scratch out the part she just wrote while roughly scratching her head and muttering, "No, no, no, my lord is better than that. This is complicated, my lord is too great to be described by mere words. What am I going to do?" Shadow, hearing her, just smiled slightly and shook his head at Beta's antics. He then sensed the dragon regenerating and coming back towards him. When the dragon arrived, Shadow didn't even give him the chance to speak and summoned roots and vines from the ground and pulled the dragon downwards. Once he was at a perfect distance, Shadow opened the ground with his magic and pulled the dragon into the ground. Before the dragon could roar in protest or retaliate, Shadow snapped its snout shut and reinforced the vines and dragged it completely into the crevice he made. Once the dragon was inside, Shadow clapped his hands together, making the ground follow suit, completely squishing the dragon to death. Blood just gushed out the cracks that were still present. And as the dragon regenerated, it looked exhausted from the constant death and regeneration. "Stop it, please just kill me." Shadow then caved the kindest smile he could muster. It was so kind that it even captivated the girls slightly. "No," and with that he proceeded to completely burn the dragon into a crisp with a flame so hot it scorched even the ground. Shadow then waited for the dragon to regenerate and used ruler's authority to bring him closer to him. And as the dragon was brought close, it opened its mouth and started to send rapid shots of magical energy. Shadow just covered his hands with armament haki and started to swat away any ball of energy that came close. Shadow just raised a hand and made a closing fist motion. The dragon then started to squish itself together due to Shadow using ruler's authority. Blood kept spraying everywhere the more Shadow squeezed his fist, until all that was left was blood, scales, and meat, everywhere. Already getting tired of dealing with the dragon, Shadow then waiting for it to regenerate. Once it was fully regenerated, Shadow said, "Rejoice, as your long-awaited wish shall become a reality." Shadow then made a sword with his slime and casually held it in the sky. As he held it he started encasing the entire sword with the element of death. The element was so potent on the sword that the area around it started to turn gray as if the colors were dying. Shadow then started to surround his sword with magical energy from this world, making it glow a beautiful purple color. And while looking at the dragon, his eyes glowed a bright purple coloring and said, "May the last words you hear be the very definition of my existence." And as he was speaking he let go of the sword, which started falling without any resistance. "I am the Monarch of Death." And as soon as the sword touched the ground the sword sunk in effortlessly. The world then soon lost all color and sound, as a blast soon encompassed everything around it. All the things the elements of death would touch would just wither away without a moment's notice. Whether it was the ground, the grass, the flowers, the trees, any animals nearby, the color of the sky, and even the sun itself, all turned a gray dull color as it looked like everything was ending. As soon as the dragon got exposed to the explosion, it tried to scream in pain and roar, but sound wouldn't come out. Whether it was the magical energy keeping it alive or the energy of the world, it was killed and dead. Not even the sound of his pain was let alive. Slowly the dragon started to close his eyes, and with a final acceptance the flames of life that kept it alive was snuffed out from existence. All that was left was a pile of bones. But even that would have been reduced to ashes if Shadow didn't stop it on time. All that was left was a gray area of death and silence, showcasing just why he was called the Monarch of Death. 32, Chapter 32. Author's note. First off, you guys are ruthless. I was getting cooked in the comments for choosing something so dumb and long. I'm on my hands and knees begging for forgiveness. The funny thing is not a single person liked it. I would have been okay if like at least one person liked it and I would have moved on, just thinking that everyone just has different taste, but for not one single person to like it, sigh, I messed up. So now we get to vote since I'm uncreative and should never be left in the kitchen. 1. I fix how I wrote it and do it like this. I'm the Monarch of Death. 2. I am Death. A lot of people said that this was better somehow. 3. Death. Angels. Retribution. 4. This is your end. 5. I am your ending. 6. Others, your ideas. P.S. People don't actually like the come forth and serve, and preferred the original, so from now it's just going to be the original, arise. Omni POV. After the battle, Shadow slowly floated down onto the wasteland he created. As soon as his feet touched the ground the area around him started to come to life. With each step he took grass and flowers started to grow. He then arrived in front of the bones of the dragon. His expression quickly turned into a sinister smile as he turned his head and looked at the soul of the slain dragon still floating around aimlessly. You thought that after actually experiencing death I would have left you rest in peace. How naive do you have to be to actually believe that? The soul of the dragon got terrified and tried to run away, not expecting Shadow to be able to see him. But he didn't make it far. Shadow's face then gained a cold expression as his eyes glowed a beautiful purple color. Arise, he said in an emotionless tone, which was followed by the appearance of a purple and black dragon bowing his head in servitude. Shadow, looking at the dragon, then put on a pondering expression, trying to think of a good name for a dragon that's able to control fog and poisonous mist. After a while Shadow then snapped his finger and said, I got it. From now on your name shall be Hazard, Hazard the Mist Dragon. The dragon then bowed his head even lower and said, I thank you my liege for choosing such a name for one such as I. Shadow then just nodded and called the dragon into his shadow, joining the rest of his 5,000 other shadow soldiers. Once the ordeal with the shadow dragon was over, Shadow then put a hand on the skull part of the bone. Once he made contact, Shadow then started to use the element of life and bring back forth the body of the dragon. The dragons formed once again, it just laid there without showing any signs of moving. Since the soul of the dragon was no longer available, all that remained was the husk of what was previously known as a dragon. Alongside reconstructing the dragon, Shadow also repaired the land he once killed with his element of life, and when he was finished he called the girls over. All 7 then appeared right in front of Shadow, kneeling in one knee. They all then said my lord, at the same time awaiting their orders. Once they were in front, Shadow then using the elements started making golden goblets with jewelry adorning them. The 8th goblet then proceeded to stay floating in front of them, while Shadow started to cut open the dragon and grab its heart. Once the heart was in his hands, Shadow then proceeded to dry it out and pour all of its blood inside the goblet. Due to the size of the heart, it had enough blood to fill up all 8 goblet to the brim. Shadow then took a hold of one of the goblet and passed the other 7 towards the girls. He then held the cup towards the girls and with a smile said, "To our fruitful battle." Clink. The girls then stood up and brought their goblets towards Shadow's, making them clink. They then awaited for Shadow to be the first one to drink. Shadow then downed the blood in one shot. Immediately he felt a warm sensation flow through his body. He closed his eyes as he felt the changes that were going through his body. His muscles has gotten more compact, the magic circuits in his body started to expand, he felt his eyes start to burn and he felt his presence become more overbearing. When the process finished he opened his eyes and what appeared were 2 purple-color dragon slit that started to narrow. He then turned his attention towards the girls. Pick of eyes. Due to his body that was made to bear the power of the Shadow Monarch, his process of absorbing the blood was a smooth one. The same thing couldn't be said about the girls. Seeing their master drink the blood, the girls followed right after, and as soon as the blood entered their systems they quickly felt like they were being burnt alive. The girls quickly dropped to the ground and let out a blood-curdling scream. Ah! The girls were just rolling on the ground trying to suppress their pain. After a few minutes of more screaming and tears rolling down their eyes they stopped squirming around and just laid there panting with sweat glistening and with their eyes close. The first one to open her eyes was Alpha. Instead of her usual golden eyes what appeared were golden dragon slits. She then tried to jump from the ground, but instead of the normal height she used to reach she reached a height way higher than she normally did. When she landed she looked at her hands and in amazement, "Whoa," she whispered, "I feel incredible." She then notices the changes in her eyes and looks around, and when she looked at her master her eyes widen in fright. I knew master was strong, but to possess such power. She thought while still looking at her master using her dragon eyes to detect his energy. Her eyes then traveled to his shadow where she saw every single shadow soldier looking back her. How did the dragon not react to this? Is master able to decide who can view his inside his shadow? What am I talking about? Of course he can. The only reason the dragon wasn't reacting was because master didn't even let him know. Alpha just nodded her head at her deduction. The other girls then followed suit and got up as well. The most excited about the change was clearly Delta, as she looks like she couldn't sit still. Delta then pounced on Shadow, who had to reinforce himself due to Delta's new strength in order to not be knocked down on the ground. Delta while on Shadow grabbed him by the collar and started to shake him. Boss, let's go hunting. I'm stronger now, so hunting is going to be more fun now. Please, you promised us a gift, right? Then Delta chooses to go hunting with boss. Shadow just took a hold of Delta and started to pet her head and play with her ears, which caused her tail to wag. Alright, we'll go hunting, just the 2 of us, but it'll have to wait until we finish everything here. Delta grew even more excited and started to rub her cheeks against his to show her affection. Sid then put her down and turned around and turned towards the dragon corpse and regenerated its heart. He then turned towards the girls and said, "Epsilon, I have a job for you." Epsilon then playfully got into a military salute and said, "Yes sir. When we move everything here and get ourselves situated, I want you to dilute the blood of the dragon to the lowest you can get it. Since your magic perception and control is the highest, it should be fairly easy for you. With the diluted blood I want you to give it to all Shadow Garden members. Since the blood is diluted, the only benefit they would get is just a slightly expanded magic circuit. And when they gain achievements I want you to give them a piece of dragon meat. That should be enough to make them stronger. I'm leaving you in charge of the distribution." Epsilon then gained a serious expression and nodded. Shadow then turned towards Ada. "I want you to research every single part of the dragon and find uses for their body part. Just do what you do best, experiment to your heart's content. When you run out of any more dragon call me so I could replenish it. And Alpha, I want you to keep an eye on her so she doesn't experiment on any of the members." Ada then gained an expression of disbelief. "Milord, but how am I supposed to know if my creations work? And come on, I only tried it one time, you can't keep holding that against me. The fact that you believe only trying one time is acceptable is concerning, and thanks to your experiment I was green and growing leaves and mushrooms everywhere. It wasn't a fun experience. If it wasn't for Master's help and demanding you hand over the antidote, I would have stayed green," said Beta, shuddering remembering the event. Ada tried to plead her case, but since no one was believing her all she could do was pout and look at Shadow with a begging expression. "Saiha, fine, but you can only do it on the cult members we capture," said Shadow while face-palming. Ada then looked towards the other girls and gave them a lazy victory sign. Shadow just shook his head at her antics and made Epsilon put the dragon in her shadow. Once everything was complete, Shadow made his way towards the ancient capital Alexandria. The first thing he did when he arrived was call forth his shadow. "I want you to collect anything of value that is left over in this city, whether it's books, gold, jewelry, anything, okay?" The Shadow's soldiers just nodded and started doing as they were instructed. Except Hazard, as Shadow told him to stay behind. "I want you to go towards the perimeter and encase the entire area with your mist, but this time use my mana and make it much more denser and potent." Hazard just nodded and flew off towards the distance. After 30 minutes everyone soon returned with bags full of stuff, whether it was ancient text to common jewelry, everything was collected. Shadow just nodded and stored everything in his shadow. After making sure nothing was missing, Shadow made the girls wait outside the city. Although confused, they followed his orders. Once they were outside, Shadow made his way towards the center of the capital. When he arrived, he spread his arms and closed his eyes. He then started to float in the air and slowly take to the sky. He was envisioning his hidden city, the future base of operation for Shadow Garden. Using his mana reactor, he started to disassemble the capital city, and making new material with his mana, he started to make his perfect city, a place of his own, a place for a monarch. He started making residences for all members and future ones, training grounds, library, hot springs, a castle, a throne room, a throne. While that was happening, the girls couldn't believe what they were seeing. The one most impacted from such a scene was Zeta. It was at that moment she decided he was a true god. From this point onward, no matter what anyone said, they couldn't change her mind. A gospel, a church, a religion, it has to be done. With our Lord as the one true God overlooking the world, no such things as corruptions, wars, cults, slaughter, and demons shall befall this world. Maybe Beta could help me make a Bible which contains our Lord's wisdom, thought Zeta, already planning on how to start it. Meanwhile, with one last thought, Shadow finished completing city. Shadow just stayed in the air overlooking everything. It's perfect, he softly whispered. Pick of city. What do y'all think is an acceptable name for the city, since I clearly can't be trusted with such a decision? 33, Chapter 33. Author's note. This chapter has 4.2k words, so it's very long and has a lot of dialogue. I can compromise on the name of moves and places, but I will not compromise on how long the dialogues are. That's the only thing I'ma be firm about. So if you don't like that, all I could tell you is to cry about it, cause I'm not changing it. Omni POV. While overlooking the city, Shadow then started coming down in front of the entrance to the castle. After passing a few rooms in the corridor, he arrived at the end of it, where a large door grander than the rest stood. As soon as Shadow arrived in front of it, he didn't move and waited. After a few seconds, his shadow started to expand slightly as Igris and Beru came out of it. After a few seconds later, his shadow expanded further and went underneath the door of the room in front of him. Beru and Igris then waited a few seconds. After a few seconds, they looked at each other and nodded their head. They then reached for the door and opened the door at the same time towards the room. The throne room. Pick of the throne room. The room itself is an exquisite piece of work. A wide, high room, enough for several hundred people, with a high ceiling and surrounding walls that were predominantly white, with golden decorations as highlights. Hanging from the ceiling were numerous chandeliers made of precious stones of all colors of the rainbow, and emitted a fantastic, dreamlike radiance. Numerous flags emblazoned with the same symbol, the symbol of Shadow Garden, hung from flagpoles embedded into the walls. Pick of the symbol. As soon as Shadow looked inside the room, he saw all of the shadow soldiers he had collected over the years all lined up and grouped together by their species. The knights were grouped together with their front spot empty without a leader. The knights were in front of the throne to the left. At the opposite side of the knights were multiple ants with the front position empty without their leader. Next to the ants was the ice bears with Tank as their leader. Right across from them was Yukihim and her group of beastkins with her as their leader. Next to her was Iron with a group of bandits he took a hold of and turned them into shield-wielding knights, and right across from him was Tusk with a group of ogres of different colors and mages as he became the leader for the magical-orientated fighters. As for the bandits, Igris had redisciplined them and have made them proper knights and joined his leadership. As for Kaisel, his figure was seen wrapping himself around the throne and waiting for his master to sit down first. As soon as the door opened, everyone started to stomp their feet in rhythm. With a smirk, Shadow started walking towards the throne slowly, while the rhythmic stomping continued. When he arrived at the throne, he slowly sat down. He then raised his hand, stopping the stomping. And with a smirk he said, "That was quite the welcoming, thank you." Which caused the shadows to smile proudly among themselves. Which was followed by Beru and Igris joining their respective group as their leader. Shadow then took off his shadow attire and chose to wear something fitting of royalty. Pick of what's he changed into. Sid then turned towards the knights on Igris' side and said, "Guide the girls here." 8 knights then split into 2 parallel line and started marching. While the girls were waiting outside, they saw 8 knights in formation marching towards them. When they arrived, they bowed slightly, signifying to them to follow along. The girls just looked at each other before following in the middle of the knights as they escorted them through the city and into He Castle. And as the knights escorted them, they looked at the surrounding in awe, looking at how well everything looks and how elegant the buildings are. They were even more amazed at the sight of the castle. As soon as they entered, Delta started sniffing around trying to find a scent of her master. When she got a whiff, she was preparing to run towards Sid, but the knights next to her crossed their sword, blocking her. Seeing them preventing her from reaching her master, Delta was ready to attack but was stopped by Alpha, who activated her dragon eyes and looked down towards Delta. Delta suddenly felt her instinct go haywire and quickly looked to where the danger was coming from. When she saw Alpha's eyes bearing down on her, all of Delta's hair stood up and she quickly turned docile. Normally, due to her new strength, she would have beaten anyone who dare stop her. But she remembered that Alpha gained the same amount of a boost as her, which quickly stopped her in her tracks. When they arrived in front of the throne room, the knights slowly opened the door, and what the girls saw inside captivated them and impregnated the scene into their brains for eternity. Sid was just sitting down on a throne with a pondering expression. Seeing this caused the knees of the girls to buckle slightly. Sid seeing them just faintly smiled and said, well I hope you like the new base of Shadow Garden, the hidden city of Nightingale. The girls didn't respond and just continued standing by the steps of the throne in silence. Sid then coughed into his hand and said ladies, which brought the girls out of their reverie. Alpha then asked in a tone full of amazement, Master, just what is this? Sid then raised a brow and said, didn't you hear me, this is Shadow Garden's new base, the hidden city of Nightingale, what do you think? Sid asked the last part with a smirk. Alpha then softly whispered, this is incredible, which caused Sid's smirk to widen. Sid's expression then turned serious and said, kneel and come forth when I call you. They quickly followed his orders without hesitation and awaited for him to call them. Since we have gotten an upgrade and Shadow Garden is ever expanding, it's time you guys get honorary titles to represent such a position within our organization. Sid then stood up from his throne and said, come forth, Alpha. And while walking up the steps to the throne Sid started saying, as most of you are aware all 7 of you are connected to me for eternity. That means you guys are important to me and as such should represent a part of me. A part of the 7 deadly sins. When Alpha was about to take the last step Sid extended his hand towards her and when she took a hold of it, Sid pulled her closely to him. They were now face to face just centimeters apart. Sid then took the hand he was holding and put it on his shoulder, with that hand now free he put it on the side of her waist and pulled her closer. The girl's eyes widened in shock at what they were seeing. Sid then continued where he left off, Alpha, you are the very first member to have joined Shadow Garden, which is something you take a great pride in. Apart from that, every time someone close to you grows whether in strength or in character, you take pride in that as if you, yourself have grown. And with each member that joins Shadow Garden, your pride grows as well, and so with that, you shall be now known as Alpha, the leader of the 7 deadly sins, and most importantly the sin of pride. Alpha, whose cheeks were already red due to how close Sid was, widened her eyes in shock as she felt Sid's hand on her chin and pulled her into a kiss. Hey. The girls just looked at the scene in disbelief, not believing what they were seeing was real. That disbelief quickly turned into anticipation as they knew that they were next. Meanwhile, as soon as Sid's lips connected to Alpha's, Alpha wrapped her arms around Sid's neck. The sweet kiss quickly turned passionate as she felt Sid's tongue brush upon her lips. Alpha opened her mouth slightly, which gave Sid the opportunity to slither his tongue inside. With that, their tongues started to coil and intertwined with each other. When Sid pulled back, the only thing connecting their mouths was the string of saliva attached to their tongue and lips. When they were done, Alpha's body moved as if it was on autopilot. She slowly moved down the steps with a daydreaming expression. She then knelt down as if by instinct and just continued looking ahead with a lost look. Now then, Beta, why don't you come up next? As soon as Beta heard her name, she secretly pumped her fist in celebration and excitedly went up to the throne. Hearing Beta's name being called, Ada just clicked her tongue. He's going by the time he's met us, which means I'm going last. Meanwhile, as soon as Beta arrived in front of Sid, she wrapped her arms around his torso and looked up towards him expectantly. Sid just chuckled and patted her head. Beta, lust comes in many different forms. Lust doesn't always mean something sexual. You, my little bookworm, lust after a good story, a great adventure, whether it's the past history or great discovery, it's something you always lust over and something you really desire. So you shall be Beta, the desirable sin of lust. Sid moved her hair slightly and grabbed the side of her head softly and lowered his head onto Beta's lips, which was quickly followed by their tongue moving against each other. When it was over, Beta had a pervy smile as she pretended to hold the helm of her skirt and do a mocking princess bow. When she arrived where she previously stood, she forgot all formal etiquette, she just flopped down and sat crossed-legged. She then quickly took out a book and pen and started to write down something quickly, while occasionally letting out a perverted laugh. He. Everyone just looked at Beta weirdly after that. Sid just shook his head and proceeded to call Gamma. Gamma surprisingly arrived relatively unharmed, since she was careful while walking up the steps to not embarrass herself. When she arrived in front of Sid, she elegantly wrapped her arms around his neck and looked at Sid directly in the eyes, waiting for her turn. At this point they weren't even excited about the titles and were just waiting for when it was their time to kiss their lord. Sid just stared back into Gamma's eyes and said, you are the most business-orientated woman I met. I just know that you are already making plans on how to make as much money as soon as possible, which I believe it's thanks to your greed. A way for a business to actually be successful, one of the major things you need is greed. But money isn't the only thing you want success, achievements, praises, power to be able to fight alongside everyone. You Gamma are a very greedy lady. Sid then smirked and said, and there's nothing wrong with that, greed is a very powerful drive towards any endeavor. You Gamma are the coveting sin of greed and avarice. As soon as Sid finished speaking, Gamma pulled Sid's head down into a long chastised kiss. While pulling him down, Gamma lifted her legs slightly close towards Sid's hip, which prompted him to grab a strong hold of her thighs. Gamma just let out a moan in Sid's mouth. Away. Due to the nature of his blood and mana, Sid's was looking older than he truly was for his age, which is the same for those that have consumed his blood and received a portion of his power, thus making all 7 girls from Shadow Garden look more beautiful and older. So as soon as Sid took a hold of Gamma's plumply thighs, she stretched out her long legs as the kiss became more than a chastised kiss as soon as she let out a moan. After a while, Gamma put down her leg and separated her lips from Sid. Gamma, looking like she was drunk from the kiss, started wobbling and walking towards the stairs. As soon Gamma took a step on the stairs, her whole foot twisted the wrong way, causing her to tumble down the stairs face first. When she arrived at the bottom, she just looked up with a thumbs up, still looking like she was drunk and her nose bleeding. No one knows if the nose bleeding is from falling down or just her perversion. She then plopped her head on the floor with and still giving out a drunken expression. Everyone just sighed at the sight, leaving her body there. Delta didn't even wait to be called in and practically jumped all the way onto Sid's arms. She didn't even wait for him to started speaking and grabbed his collar and smashed her face into his, giving him a sloppy kiss. Sid then tried to speak with the hound, practically licking his face. Sigh Delta, kiss, you are probably kiss the most hot-headed kiss person I know. You are a complete savage, kiss on the battlefield, kiss, which isn't a bad thing, mind you, kiss. Sid then squeezed of her as to make her stop, which worked. Delta just let out a moan due to the unexpected contact. Sid just continued where he left off. Due to your bloodlust you sometimes go out of control and act like a total berserker and go in a frenzy. As such you shall be known as, the untamable sin of wrath, Delta. Delta just gave a cheeky grin and pressed her lips all over Sid, almost smothering him. When she came off Sid, all she did was a backflip onto the bottom of the throne and sat down with her cheeky grin still plastered on her face, and her tail wagging all over the place. Sid then looked towards the girls, nodding his head towards Epsilon, indicating her to head over. She does so ever so shyly, afraid that due to her smaller body he wouldn't kiss her and not love her like he does the other girls. For this one, when Sid called her, he sat down on the throne and waited for her to arrive. Epsilon was taking her time. She moved over Gamma, who was still on the floor face planted. When she arrived in front of Sid she was shaking like a leaf and closed her eyes, almost not wanting to hear what he had to say. Sid then sighed due to her insecurities. He forcefully grabbed her arm and put her on his lap facing him. Sid then grabbed her chin and made her look directly into his eyes. Sigh Epsilon, why are you so ashamed of yourself? There's nothing to be envious about towards the other girls, you guys are unique in your own way. If you guys were all the same person I can confidently say I wouldn't love all of you the same. Epsilon hearing this went wide-eyed, not expecting to hear her master say such a thing. Sid just ignored her expression. You know there's nothing wrong with being envious. I believe that envy is also a great motivation for growing stronger. When you envy someone and something, you work hard to achieve it, just wanting to grasp a bit of what the other person has. It worked great for you, didn't it? Epsilon then looked confused. Because of your envy, you became the best at controlling mana. Your control is so high that you even got Alpha slightly jealous of your ability. Epsilon then turned around towards Alpha, who came out of her daydream, nodding her head in agreement to what Sid said. Sid just grabbed her chin once again and made her look at him in the eyes, which caused Epsilon to blush as she realized their compromising position. But, I'm not really jealous of their power, what I'm jealous about is their bodies, Epsilon said in a whisper. Sid raised an eyebrow and with a serious expression asked, do you think of me as someone so shallow? Epsilon just shook her head rapidly in denial without any hesitation. How can I possibly think of such a thing towards Master? So then why do you think I won't love you cause of your body? Your body is something I could care less about. And I think you forgot one important detail, my blood and power nurtures your body, you're already growing in places where you had difficulties growing. I love you just the way you are, Epsilon. Epsilon hearing this just started to cry and clean her tears. When she was done, Sid continued where he left off. Though I know such envious emotions are difficult to get rid of. That's why you should use your envy as you have been doing, as a motivation. You are Epsilon, the discontenting sin of envy. Sid didn't even let Epsilon have a chance to have a word in, as he just grabbed her face and brought her in for a long kiss. Epsilon, who was sitting up top of Sid, just had her hands resting on his chest, while their kiss turned more passionate and lustful. Huff huff huff. Epsilon moved a bit away to catch her breath. She then went back for more, which Sid allowed, but after a while he had to softly disconnect their kiss. Epsilon just had a face full of satisfaction and got off slowly, but not before slowly moving her hips on top of his crotch. She then went and jumped towards the rest of the girls while skipping along and with a happy expression. Zeta, just like Delta, didn't wait for her name to be called. It appears impatience is a common trait among beastkins. When Zeta arrived in front of Sid she tried to keep a serious expression, but her tail exposed her true feelings as it wagged back and forth. Sid just looked at her tail and raised an eyebrow at her, which made Zeta blush due to her exposed feelings on the matter. While blushing she looked down and said, sorry master. Sid just shook his head and asked, what are you even apologizing for? He then started to pet her cat ears, which caused her tail to wag even faster, making her blush even brighter. They then locked eyes naturally without any force or anything, as if their eyes were magnet attracted to each other. You and I are similar, you know. We both have that hunger for power. That undescribable hunger that doesn't go away even when we grow stronger. It's thanks to that hunger that we keep pushing forward and surpass our limits. You, yourself may not realize it, Zeta, but your hunger is the highest out of everyone. You, my lovely feline, are unsustainable, and I love that about you. You are Zeta, the unsustainable sin of gluttony. Sid, like he's done so far, started kissing Zeta. Although slowly at first, they started to pick up the pace. Sid wiggled his arms around Zeta's waist and pulled her closer. Even though she was physically older, she felt like someone who didn't have any experience when kissing Sid. To her he was kissing and wrapping their tongue right at the perfect moment, making her squirm in excitement. When they separated, Zeta let out a longing breath, wanting for more, but she knew there was one more person left. She could feel the glare behind her as if rushing her. She just sighed in disappointment and went towards the others. Once Zeta set foot at the last step, they all heard the floor crack. Everyone just looked in shock as Ada ran at full speed towards Sid. When she arrived in front of him, she wrapped her legs around him and started to passionately steal his lips. Sid tried to push her off him slightly, but due to Ada's inhuman strength she was gripping on tightly. When she stopped kissing Sid, she just spoke very rapidly, "I know, sin of sloth, due to always being tired and always falling asleep. Now please let's continue." Ada didn't even let Sid get a word in as she went back into practically eating his face. She quickly grabbed his arm and went and took a hold of his hand. She then placed that hand on her own ass and made Sid give it a squeeze. All, hearing Ada's moan, quickly brought them back from their shock and rushed towards them. Everyone quickly took a hold of both of them and tried to separate them, but due to Ada's strength she was stuck like a leech. "Come on Ada, stop this madness," said Alpha, who was pulling on her trying to get her off. "Let go off the boss man Ada, he's for everyone. We're all supposed to have a big clan with a lots of babies, so share," said Delta while taking a hold of Sid and pulling. "Never," said Ada and quickly returned to sucking on his face and lips. Sid, getting tired of being taken advantage of, just raised his hand, which made the girls let go off of them except Ada. He then swung the arm across Ada's ass, which caused her to moan and let go of his mouth. Sid without any effort took Ada and sat on the throne and laid Ada on his lap. Without hesitation he started to smack her ass. Smack AOV. Smack OEAIE. Smack ah yes. Ada then turned and looked towards the girls and held up a victory sign with a satisfied sleepy expression. Smack harderer masterer. Sid, seeing her just enjoying it, decided to get serious with his punishment and coated his hand with the element of fire. And with a fiery swing Sid spanked her across her ass. Ada's sleepy and lustful expression quickly disappeared. Shock and pain were the main emotions in her face. She then quickly got up and started running while holding her rear. She quickly conjured water and started to rub it near her butt, cooling it down. She then went back towards the girls, and when she was facing them she stuck out her tongue and gave them the victory sign once again, basically saying, "I got all that I wanted out of that." When she arrived with everyone else she just laid down on the floor and brought her hands together to her chest and fell asleep with an expression that showed that if she died now she would have died happy. Everyone just looked at her in disbelief. Sid just covered his face with his palm and shook his head. He then went and sat on the throne and waited for everyone to get back into formality. Although it was slightly difficult waking up Ada, they managed. When they were done, Sid just laid on his throne and said, "With that you guys are now officially the 7 deadly sins of Shadow Garden." The girls then gained a proud expression among themselves, showing how happy they were with their accomplishments. Now on to important matters, relocating everyone here. Though that should be fairly easy if I do it. But no, I want you guys to test out the mist that surrounds this place. Due to the dragon I killed becoming a part of my shadow army, his abilities have gotten more powerful, so the defenses of the city should be very potent. I want you guys to try and get in by yourself, with everyone else. I'll leave Hazard, the dragon, here in the hidden city for a while you guys get used to him and learn on how to enter. Sid then stood up and called forth his shadows back into his and started walking down the throne, and while walking he went past in girls. When he made in a few feet away he said, "Oh, by the way, the kisses weren't rewards, the kisses were to tell you guys that you are mine and mine alone for eternity. You guys are now officially my wives. Please take care of me in the future, honeys." And with that Sid just walked out of the throne room and went to explore the hidden city of Nightingale in person. While the girls just stood there frozen, until Beta unconsciously muttered, "Did we just get married towards Master?" The girls didn't know what to say. They just stood there in shock, not believing what just happened. Epsilon then softly asked herself, "Do we call him master or husband?" Alpha just took a deep breath to reboot her brain, and when she did she started walking out of the throne room. Seeing Alpha leaving, Gamma asked, "What are you doing?" Alpha just turned her head back like Sid just did and with a smirk said, "I'm following our husband's order," and with that she left the throne room as well. Ada then quietly asked herself, "Now that I'm his wife, would he let me study and dissect him to figure out how he continues to grow so strong and how his powers work? I mean, it's not like he'll die, he's immortal after all." And with that Ada started leaving with a pondering expression, which was followed by everyone going to do the task they were assigned, leaving the throne room completely empty. Author's note. His shadow's reaction to what they were doing in the throne room, GIF. 34, Chapter 34 R18. Author's note. Everyone unexpectedly freaking loved last chapter. Funny thing was halfway through it I got this insane headache. I was just going to leave it half finished, but I decided to say fuck it and continue writing, and that's how I discovered my gift of being able to write scenes while in pain. Proceeds to bang head against the wall to see if it still works. By the way, it's insane how I got 1000 power stones. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but I never asked for them, not even once. So seeing all the support is amazing, thank you. Omni POV. After Sid finished exploring the city, he decided to just go home. When he arrived, he found his sister in the training yard practicing her swordsmanship. When Claire noticed Sid, she called him over. When he got close to her, she stopped what she was going to say and started sniffing the air. She then got closer to Sid and started sniffing him all over. And with a serious tone she asked, "Who have you been with? And why do I smell the lingering scent of multiple women? Are you having sex with them? How many are they?" Sid then just casually replied, "Don't worry about it, don't worry about it, not yet, and 7, for now." Claire's face then turns irritated. "What do you mean for now? Don't worry about it." Claire then swung her practice sword directly at Sid, which he easily dodged. She didn't stop at just one swing, she kept swinging at him, trying to at least get it in, but they all missed. When he turned his back at her so he could go grab a sword for himself, Claire saw it as the perfect opportunity to strike. Sid with his back turned just dodged it all the same, irritating Claire even further. When he grabbed his own practice sword, Claire, still annoyed at Sid for seeing other girls, started swinging at him with more aggression. "Why would he need any other girl when he has me right in front of him? I better take action quickly before some unexpected bitch gets to him first." And with that they spent the rest of the afternoon practicing. It was now night time and Sid was laying in bed looking at the ceiling in deep thought when the door was then carefully opened. It was Claire and she was wearing her sleeping wear. She then slowly closed the door and started walking towards Sid. Sid didn't even look at her and asked, "What are you doing here, especially during this time?" Claire didn't speak but started crawling sensually towards Sid when she got on the bed. She then climbed on top of him and put her hands on his bare chest, as he doesn't normally wear a shirt when going to sleep. Claire then gained a serious expression as she asked, "Answer me honestly, are you a virgin?" Sid then looked at his sister with a raised brow. "Why should that matter, and didn't I previously say that I didn't have sex?" "You just said you didn't have sex with them, meaning the ones whose smell was all over you. You could have had lost your virginity to someone else entirely and I wouldn't have known." "Sigh, no, I haven't lost my virginity, happy. Very," Claire said, which she then proceeded to lower her head towards Sid's neck and started kissing and licking it softly. "After all your first times should belong to me." She then started aiming her kisses more upwards and went straight towards his mouth. Sid inwardly smirked knowing where this was going and silently made a barrier using sound magic so sound doesn't escape the room. As she started kissing him, Claire started to grind her hips against his, making their pleasure heighten. She then slowly backed away and pressed her forehead against his and looked directly into his eyes. "You are too handsome for your own good and incredibly powerful as well. A lot of pretty bitches and sluts from high places are going to be coming after you and some may succeed in capturing your heart. So you're probably going to have a harem of incredibly beautiful thoughts. So I'm going to make sure I'm your most important." She then smirked, "After all, everyone remembers their first times, so I'm going to take them all for myself." And with that she went back to kissing him. After a while she backed away as a string of saliva still connected them. She proceeded to lick her lips while looking at him and slowly take off what she was wearing. When she was done she tossed it towards the floor and came off from on top of Sid. She then proceeded to take a hold of his pants and slowly take them off. When she finished she looked at his dick in amazement as she took a hold of it. "It's quite big," Claire thought as she proceeded to start stroking it lightly. And with her tongue she moved her mouth closer and licked the base of his dick all the way towards the top. Once she reached the tip she encased it with her mouth and proceeded to suck on it and lick all around the head of his dick. While that was happening she would look up towards Sid to get his reaction, but he just had his hands under his head in a relaxed manner. Claire just got irritated seeing no reaction from him, so she took the entire thing in her mouth. Guuk. She then slowly moved her head up and down. While moving her head she started to lick all around his shaft in rhythm with her head movement. When she started using her tongue she felt a hand on her head pushing it down further and caressing it. "Gick gick 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 gick. Sluyurp. Gick 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 gick. You're surprisingly good at this, keep going, I'm close." Claire hearing his compliment smirk and pick up the pace. "Gick gick 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 gick. Oh fuck," Sid exclaimed as he sat up and took a hold of her head with both of his hands and pushed her head further down. "I'm coming." Splurt 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 splurt. Gulp 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 gulp. After each cum shot Claire would just start swallowing it without an ounce of hesitation. When he was finished Sid just plopped back on the bed, while Claire lifted her head up high and let out a breath of satisfaction. While wiping the corner of her mouth with her tongue she said, "That tasted very good." Taking a hold of his tool she started stroking it, making it hard once again. When it got hard she slowly hovered over it. She started to guide his dick right towards her entrance. While guiding she started to run his dick on her entrance and say, "As you can see, I'm already wet, so it should go in smoothly." She then took a deep breath to prepare herself and slowly started sinking onto it, until it met a barrier that was stopping it. Sid, seeing her nervousness, took a hold of her hips and made her look towards him. "You ready?" he asked, to which she shyly nodded. Sid nodded right back and thrusted his full length right into her depth, destroying the barrier that was stopping her previously. "Oh!" Claire moaned from the pain as blood started coming down. She laid down in Sid's chest and started breathing heavily due to the pain with tears in her eyes. "Wait a minute, it hurt more than I was expecting." After a few minutes Claire got her breathing under control and sat up from his chest. She then looked at Sid and said, "I'm ready, you can start." Sid, while holding her hips, started to thrust upwards slowly at first. The pain Claire was previously feeling quickly turned into pleasure. "Faster. Away." Sid, hearing her moans, started picking up the pace, which prompted Claire to moan even louder. Oh fuck, why do you feel so good inside of me?" Oh fuck, it was like your dick was made just for me. Claire, while writing Sid, just started biting her lips due to the exceptional pleasure she was feeling. Sid took his hands off her hips and made his way towards her breast. When he started playing with them, Claire let out soft subtle moans. She took her hand and held Sid's hand in place of her breast and made him squeeze even harder. MMHMMM. Claire then started to grind her hips with Sid still inside of her. Faster, please go faster, I'm really close. Claire pleaded. Shit, I'm close too. Let's do it together, at the same time. And come inside. Sid nodded as he started to go even faster. The only sounds that could be heard were the sound of grunting and moaning and the bed squeaking. Claire shut her eyes and looked upwards and muttered lustfully, it's coming. Sid just continued at his regular pace until they both came at the same time. AHHHHH, I'm coming, splurt 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 splurt. With heavy breathing, Claire plopped down back onto Sid's chest, taking a breather with a goofy satisfied smile. She then lightly muttered, best birthday present ever. Sid's eyes then went wide. Oh shit, that's right, her birthday celebration party is tomorrow. Although she's already 15, the celebration happens a few weeks after. Sid then turned Claire and laid her down on the bed and with a smirk said, don't think we're done with just one round, the night is still ahead of us. Claire's eyes went wide as Sid, who still hasn't disconnected from Claire, started pistoning his member back inside her. And with that they spent the long night in each other's embrace until morning came. 35, Chapter 35. Author's note, this extra chapter is a thank you for the 1000 power stones. Words 4.3k. Omni POV. Once morning came, you can see Claire laying on Sid's arms with a smile on her face while drawing circles around his chest. Sid let out a sigh before saying, although it was fun and I wouldn't mind continuing, we have to get up. You know how mother gets when we're not on time. And if we're late, especially today of all days, she's going to give us a long lecture, which I don't want to sit through, so come on. Claire let out a reluctant sigh and started to get up. "Ooh," she groaned as she held the side of her hips. Sid just smirked proudly hearing her cry. Claire then started to carefully put on her clothes and started limping towards the door, not even bothering to put on her underwear, and just held them as she was too lazy to put them on. "Why don't you just heal yourself? It was my first time, I want the pain to last as long as possible to remember this day." She then slowly closed the door to not draw any attention. And when she fully closed the door, she let out a sigh of relief, but unexpectedly a maid came around the corner while carrying sheets. The maid just froze seeing Claire come out of the young master's room and holding her underwear at that, with white liquid running down her legs. Claire's eyes then narrowed as she gained a crazed expression. She put a finger on top of her lips and ran her thumb across her neck, basically saying, "Keep quiet, otherwise you're dead." The maid quickly gained a scared expression and nodded her head rapidly. Claire's expression then reverted back to smile as she limped her way onto a bath. The maid just stood there with a stunned expression, not knowing what to do or what to even think. She was just paralyzed in shock. After a few minutes, Sid emerged from his room shirtless while wearing pants. He closed the door behind him and gave the maid a reassuring smile. The maid, seeing his figure and smile, started blushing as steam came out from her head. No wonder the young lady would commit such an act. Everything about him just appears to be perfect. Even though he's young, his figure and smile could just captivate anyone who would lay their eyes on them. He then patted her shoulder while still smiling reassuringly. "You don't have anything to worry about anymore." The maid just tilted her head in confusion, not getting what he meant. And with that he started walking away. As soon as he turned his back towards the maid suddenly combusted into black flames. The maid tried to scream out in pain and agony, but sound just wouldn't come out. She was burnt away, where not even the ashes remained, not even the sheets she was carrying were spared. Sid's reassuring smile quickly went away and was replaced by a cold and indifferent expression. With a hand on his pant pockets, he started ruffling with his bed hair as he muttered in a cold and emotionless voice, "Yar days, that girl is always leaving her mess for me to clean up." And with that Sid went towards a different bath and got dressed for his sister's party. His drip pick. And with that guests from lower class noble families started appearing one by one, thus commencing the start of the party. The party went mostly until late in the night. It mostly consisted of dancing, girls trying to flirt with Sid and not believing how good he looks, to Sid playing a musical note for his sister which touched her, people being amazed at Sid's musical skills, even his parents were amazed, more girls trying to offer marriage proposals to which Claire always came and shot it down, and one final big dance with his sister. His dancing was mostly about Claire being the center of attention, as if every move was carefully planned to showcase her beauty to the world. With one big round of applause the party came to an end. Seeing everyone leaving, Claire came close to Sid's ear and asked, "Want to do it again later tonight?" Sid just shook his head. "I have something to do tonight, so another day," which caused Claire to pout and give a reluctant sigh. Seeing that everyone left, Sid gave out a fake yawn and said, "I'm very tired, so I'm going to sleep." The mom just gave Sid a sweet motherly smile and replied, "Sure thing sweetie, and you were amazing out there today, good job." Sid, while letting out another fake yawn, said, "Yeah, no problem mom," and went back into his room, laid in bed, and waited when Claire would get kidnapped. Later in the night, Claire could be seen sleeping a deep sleep, exhausted from everything that happened. From her hours of non-stop pleasuring, keeping that fatigue due to it being her first time, getting discovered, party and dancing which just added to her already tired physique, always keeping a watchful eye on her brother so he doesn't get captured by the wandering harlots, and more dancing. So she was physically and mentally exhausted. After a few minutes the window from her bedroom slowly opened and a green fog started encasing the whole room. After a few minutes people wearing masks started entering the room, a guy most likely the leader can close to her bed and put a syringe close to her neck. Mostly as an insurance, as they probably heard of her strength and power. As soon as Claire felt the cold metal close to her neck, her eyes shot wide open and quickly jumped into action. She sucker punched the guy with the syringe right in the center of his face. Due to the sudden attack the guy quickly dropped to ground in pain holding his now bleeding nose. She then used the guy crouching as a foothold and then jumped towards the guy that was behind him, kicking him in the face. What neither of them noticed however was the pair of purple eyes in the shadows overlooking everything. I see, so they came prepared. They probably heard of her strength and made more preparations. They added muscle relaxers and sleeping powder into the smoke. But it seems they still underestimated her. My precious sister isn't going down without a fight. She's going to make a lot of noise and going to wake up everyone, Sid thought as he added an invisible sound barrier blocking the sounds inside. When she kicked the guy in the face, two men appeared at each side of her and took a hold of her arms, stopping her resistance. While being held, Claire raised her legs all the way up in the air and dropped down her entire body weight and remaining strength onto the foots of the guys holding her. Crunch crunch, completely breaking the bones on their feet. They were about to quickly scream out in pain but stopped themselves, not wanting to alert anyone. Claire suddenly felt weakened and was about to collapse, so using all her remaining strength, she took a deep breath, and when she opened her mouth to scream out for help, a hand suddenly came behind her and held her mouth and quickly injected the syringe on her neck. Claire was slowly closing her eyes, when she used all of her willpower and closed her mouth, that was open and about to scream, onto the guy's hand and with a final pull ripped out two of his fingers. And with that she closed her eyes, falling into a deep sleep with blood all over her mouth and two fingers next to it. The guy who just had his finger chomped off let out a blood-curdling scream. The rest of the guys went wide-eyed hearing their partner scream and quickly cover his mouth. All that was heard was muffled screaming as another pair of guys went and picked up Claire and quickly left from where they came from, too afraid that they were discovered. Sid could be seen in his room completely awake looking at the ceiling with a proud smirk. In the morning, all members of the manor could be seen at the scene of the crime. While looking at the scene of the crime, the mother could be seen with tears flowing down her eyes, looking at all the blood. She thought the worst. She almost fainted when she saw the fingers on the ground. Sid, to reassure his mother, knelt down and picked up the fingers. Sid quickly put that down. His mother shouted. Sid just raised his hand, stopping her from continuing. It's not hers. What? It's too long and the textures are rough. Even though Claire trains every day, she always takes care of herself. These fingers aren't hers. Plus I know my sister, she fought back and she fought back hard. I wouldn't even doubt it if someone says none of the blood here belongs to her. The mother, after listening to Sid's explanation and looking at the finger carefully, calmed down. She then went and gave Sid a hug and said, "Thank you, honey." While the baldy of the dad started looking at everything like he was a detective. He's right, it looked like she fought back, as expected of my daughter, but it looks like the bandits came prepared as expected. They thought very highly of our daughter. How noble of them, the balding old man said as he picked up the powder that was scattered everywhere and took a sniff of it. As soon as he brought it towards his nose he completely collapsed on the ground and started snoring heavily with a snot bubble coming out of his nose. The mom just looked at this in disgust and disbelief, wondering why she married such an idiot. Sid, seeing this, just sighed and started leaving, but not before saying, "If Claire fought back even when under something so potent, I'll say she's fine." And with that Sid left the room with a maid following close behind him. His mom just looked at her sons retreating back gratefully, for having a son so dependable and not useless like his father. Sid just made his way onto the study room and sat behind the main desk, with the maid still following and standing right next to him. Sid then grabbed her arm and pulled her onto his lap and said, "You can drop the disguise now, Beta." Beta was now blushing as she was sitting on Sid's lap. She then started to compose herself and pointed towards the map. "Master Akko dash." "What was that?" Sid interrupted. "Master Weeby dash. I'm not listening until I hear a proper name calling from you." Beta then started blushing even harder and whisper, "Lord husband." Sid just smiled and grabbed her chin and brought her in for a kiss. When he let go, Beta's elf ears were just flapping in happiness and excitement, not expecting to be treated like that right off the bat. She expected it would take a long while before they became more intimate, not this soon. Sid started patting her head as he laid back on the chair. "Beta, you have to understand, you are now my wife. That means I care about you. You can't expect me to not show affection for the person I care about, especially when it's a cute elf like you. And just like you're my wife, I am your husband, and sometimes this husband wants some affection from his wife." Sid just went back to kissing Beta, who very much enjoyed his domineering side, especially when it comes to demanding affection. When Sid broke the kiss, he returned the conversation back to what they were talking about. "You don't have to worry about Claire. Do you really think that if she was truly in danger I would just let that happen? I willingly allowed her to be taken. She is protected at all times. This was a test of sorts for her. I would let the Diabolos cult kidnap her and I would see how she would act. If I like what I saw and she fought back excellently, she would have the necessary strength to join us. If not, I would have just kept her in the dark. but she did good so she will join. Plus I needed her to see the cult for herself, if not she would never have believed me. Then does my lord dash, cough, then does lord husband know where she is. Beta then controlled her shadow and pulled up multiple papers and documents and carefully laid them out on the desk. As soon as everyone heard of Miss Claire's disappearance, everyone in Shadow Garden started searching for her, and based on our information network this is what we found. The members of the cult most likely took her north dash, but before she could continue Sid interrupted her. You really have to check your information more carefully. If this was a real incident people would have died. Sid then threw a slime-made knife in the air as it landed on the south part of the map that was also on the table. Beta then started to carefully overlook everything and gasped, "You're right, the north is only a distraction." Sid then patted her ass, which caused her to jump due to the unexpected hand placement. Sid then said, "Get the others, it's time Claire learns the truth of this world." Beta's expression got serious and collected all the documents and placed them in her shadow and got up from Sid's lap reluctantly and started to sink at her own shadow with a bow. POV switch, Claire's POV. Groaning. I feel like I was just in a coma and just woke up. I opened my eyes still feeling groggy. I had to wait a minute so my eyes could adjust to the light, and once they were well adjusted I tried to move, but I realized I'm in a cell chained up. I then suddenly felt iron in my mouth. Yuck, I still have that guy's blood in my mouth. And where the hell am I thought as I slightly pulled on the chains. Hearing the sounds of the chains, a strange-looking guy enters the cell with a chair and locks the cell behind him and takes a seat. "Well, young lady, I have some questions for you, and I hope you answer them willingly," the guy says, trying to be intimidating. "Wait, now that I look closely he looks familiar. Wait, I think I recognized you. You're that loser that fought and lost against Princess Iris in the God of War festival, Viscount Alba, the loser of the tourney's first rounds of bout." Tilting my head to the side, his foot passes by my face and hits the wall. "So you can dodge something that fast," as expected of the one able to injure my men even while drugged up. I expected nothing less from the hero's descendant. Hero's descendant? I have no idea what the hell you're on about. The only reason I'm so strong is cause of my brother's training and teachings. Brother? Yup, my little brother, he's a handful, I tell you. His good looks are going to get him in trouble one of these days. So I have to step up and protect him. When we fight I could never win against him, and he's always teaching me things like a know-it-all. The worst part is that those lessons are actually valuable. I said, ranting, finally being able to brag to someone about my brother. Anyways, let's get this over with. I heard you had some questions for me and you better hurry up and send me home afterwards. If my brother knows I'm missing I don't doubt he will come looking for me. The Alba dude just sneered when I mentioned my brother, dumbass. He should have taken my suggestion into consideration. Claire Cagino, have you been feeling unwell lately? Trouble using magic? Keeping it under control? Black spots on your body starting to rot? Any such symptoms? The hell? What, did you just kidnap me to play doctor? Sorry doctor, the only one allowed to search my body is only the one I truly love. Fine, I'll play along but no touching, okay? As for the symptoms, there was something like that a year ago, but my brother took care of it. He said that I would learn one day what they meant and that I wasn't strong enough to learn of such secrets. The Alba guy then put on a pondering expression as he said, I see, so you do have the symptoms, which means you're compatible. I only called you a hero descendant due to your supernatural strength, but it seemed I wasn't wrong in my assumptions. Why the hell do you keep calling me a hero descendant? Seriously, what's his problem? Is he sick in the head or something? That's not something you should worry about, and rest assured I'll definitely take a look into your brother. PHHTTTTTT. I don't think I can contain my laughter hearing him. Ha 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 ha, you're hilarious. Mr. Funny over here then gained a irritated expression and asked, what's so funny? Wiping the tears from the corner of my eyes from laughing I replied, because you think you even have a chance against my brother. I could only shake my head at his foolishness. You're such a fool, my god. Even if I went all out, using magic, the best equipment, an army, and multiple beasts, I don't think I'll be able to even touch my brother, so hearing someone so weak say that they're going after him is so funny. Anyways, I have places to be, so I'll see you later, I said as I use one of the techniques my brother taught me and hardened my muscles and just casually ripped the chains right from the walls. I just grabbed the shackle that was sealing my magic and ripped it right off and repeated the process with the other one. The grease guy just jumped back in shock. How are you doing that? Your magic should be sealed. Casually waving him off I said, oh that, it's just a technique my brother taught me. By the way, you guys really need to upgrade your hospitality. I mean, I sat there with a mouth full of blood that wasn't my own and you guys didn't even offer me water. I can only shake my head in disappointment. The grease guy then tried to surprise attack me, but when it landed nothing even happened. That wasn't very nice, you know. As I see his expression morph into anger, I can see why Sid likes to tease me a lot. This is fun. You know, I'm feeling kind of generous today. Why don't I teach you something my brother taught me, I said as I started to swing the chains. Anything and everything can be used as a weapon, he always used to say, I said as I swung the chain across his face and sent him flying, destroying the chair he was previously sitting on and the door to the cell due to the force of my swing. As I exit the cell I continue the lessons. Lesson 2, always beat your enemies senseless until they completely lose the will to fight. I started swinging both chains across his face on the floor to the point where his face wasn't even recognizable. As I continue wailing at him I heard a voice I've been waiting to hear. Ha 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 ha, nice job Claire. I quickly stop and turn towards the voice. It was Sid, and when I turned around he was wearing this beautiful black and golden coat that made his presence even more intimidating. When I saw him, a large smile started appearing, but it quickly froze when I saw him surrounded with so many beautiful women. Although they were wearing masks, you can just tell they're beautiful. I just pointed at him and angrily asked, "Who are these bitches that are accompanying you? Did these harlots seduce my brother with their bodies?" "Those bitches." Sid just shook his head looking exasperated and said, "What did I always tell you about looking away from the enemy?" Wah dash. I quickly looked around and realized this bastard was trying to run away. Just as I was about to follow, Sid appeared right next to me and grabbed my shoulder and shook his head. POV change, Omni POV. As Shadow appeared next to Claire, he put a hand on her shoulder, stopping her. "Let me take care of it, the girls over there will explain everything that's happening." And with that, Shadow started sinking onto his shadow and followed Viscount Alba. Claire, seeing this, just stood there frozen, as she never seen Sid do anything like this before. She was getting more confused than ever. She then turned towards the 7 girls and saw the multiple bodies of soldiers laying dead before their feet. "Just who are you guys?" Claire asked defensively, wanting to know their relationship with her brother. All the girls then started blushing, and Alpha stepped up and held her chest up high and said, "We are Master's loyal wives." Claire's face expression turned cold as she asked, "What?" as her magic powers start seeping through. The girls then gained an awkward expressions as they started to basically explain everything from the beginning. As for Shadow, he unexpectedly appeared in front of Viscount Alba as he was muttering, "Now I know the identity of the ones that were destroying our bases. With this I'll gain a promotion, with this you will be saved, Milia." As soon as he saw Shadow, he panicked and quickly took the pills from his suit pockets and downed them all in one go. The Viscount's body quickly started expanding and growing bigger and more grotesque. "You will not stop me," he yelled as his previous wounds already healed, and he pulled out his sword and charged it with a plethora amount of magic power. He then swung the sword with a huge amount of strength, destroying everything on his path. Except for Shadow, as he didn't even gain a speck of dirt on him. He just looked at Grease coldly and said in an emotionless voice, "How disgusting. How dare you show something so grotesque to these monarch's eyes? I don't even have the desire to play around with you. Perish." As soon as Shadow said the word perish, Viscount Grease was cut into millions upon millions of pieces. Shadow didn't even use a sword, he just used his 2 fingers and started swiping all over Grease's body. "Come forth and serve," he said while looking at all the blood everywhere. As soon as those words left his mouth, the Viscount grotesque-looking body appeared, looking better than it was previously. He then looked at him as he said, "I'm not even going to bother thinking of a good name, I'll just keep your name as Grease." The Shadow soldier now named Grease bowed, paying his respects, and went into Shadow's shadow. "Sigh, now I have to deal with Claire, this is gonna be a pain in the ass." When Sid appeared where everyone was gathered, Claire disappeared from where she was standing with the other girls and arrived in front of Sid with her fist cocked back and punched him right on his cheek. Due to the force, a gust of wind appeared behind him as he just stood in place and looked at Claire in confusion. What was that for? She then grabbed his collar and started shaking him and yelling at him, "What the hell is the matter with you? You started a whole secret organization, got married, 2, not 1, not 2, not even 3 girls, but 7 different girls, and what the hell is all this nonsense about Diablo's cult? I mean, it makes sense if you think about it, but really." Once she stopped yelling, she started huffing and puffing to catch her breath before yelling again, "Is that why you have been sneaking out since you were little? My god, CID, not only does this organization have hundreds upon hundreds of girls, you are probably just collecting them so they could join your harem." Claire then started huffing and puffing some more and muttered, "Seriously, what am I going to do with you? I mean, why tell me all this now when I'm going to school in the capital today?" Sid just started chuckling, which caused Claire to glare at him. "Do you think this funny?" No, none of that, and you're taking this way out of proportion. I didn't start collecting girls, it was mostly Alpha and the rest that found them, and of course the organization is going to be girls, most with the curse are girls, although boys can get them, it's extremely rare. And you forgot I treated your curse, remember, and the reason why I'm telling you now, is cause I noticed the girls were reluctant to leave as they have to move and operate some things from the capital, so I was going to give them a mission to train you. Train me? But I'm already strong. Yeah, but not their level of strong. And with that, Sid started making preparations to enhance Claire. Author's note. Can y'all tell me what y'all thought about Claire's POV? 36, Chapter 36. Author's note. First and foremost, I would like to offer a sincere apology for last chapter's mishap in accidentally destroying and confusing the character personality. As for the voting, it was 110 no and 80 yes, so unfortunately that means she isn't getting revived and turning into his exclusive maid. Omni POV. Wait, so you're telling me, you have been making them stronger and stronger but you didn't do anything for me? I'm literally your sister, I should have been your first choice when you decided to make them stronger, said Claire with her expression getting angrier by the second. Although they're very strong, you yourself have much more skill than them. I have been training you since we were little and I've been training them since I was 10, so yeah, you are much more skillful. And you don't have to worry about not having the same upgrades as them. I was planning on doing it to you as soon as I told you about my other identity. We could do it right here and now, if you want to, that is, Sid said, shrugging his shoulder. Of course I want to do it right now. What do I have to do? Just sit down crossed-legged on the floor. Sid then proceeded to explain everything about how to form a mana core and its functions. Claire was amazed of the ingenuity of it and couldn't believe Sid came up with something like that. Did you seriously come up with something like that? That is amazing and almost unbelievable. Sid just gave her a confident smirk as he said, I know I'm amazing, you don't have to keep telling me that. Claire then proceeded to start forming her own mana core, then when it formed into a crystal ball, she proceeded to bite down on her thumb and draw blood, but before she could apply it Sid stopped her. Wait, before you do that there's something you need to know. You see, thanks to my powers and ability I'm technically immortal. Claire hearing him went wide-eyed and with her mouth wide open she looked towards the girls looking for confirmation. Seeing all of them nodding their head reassuring her, she turned her head back at Sid looking at him in disbelief. Sid then continued, you see I can also share my immortality with people if I wanted to, and as you can guess the girls are immortal as well. So I'm going to be sharing my immortality with you as well. Sid then proceeded to make a finger gun and puncture a hole in his chest right where his heart is, drew a drop of blood that was glowing faintly purple with power. As he did, the hole in his chest and heart quickly closed, leaving only the drop floating in front of him. Sid then took and controlled the blood that came from Claire's finger and mixed it with his own and shot it towards her stomach. After the mana explosion Claire kept looking at her hands and clenching her fist. I feel amazing. Alpha and the girls just nodded their head, as Alpha said, husband's power would do that to you. Claire hearing her just closed her eyes and tilted her head as she grew a tick mark on her head. We're not done, Sid said. Due to their powers being connected, whenever the girls store something in their shadow Sid has unrestricted access to it, since it's connected to his shadow dimension. And so with just a thought Sid pulled the corpse of the dragon and presented it to Claire. Aw man, you hunted a dragon and I didn't get to watch, now that's seriously unfair. Claire pouted. Sid just rolled his eyes as he finger-gunned the chest of the dragon as blood started flowing out and on a cup he quickly made using magic. Once he was done he put the dragon away and presented her with the cup of blood. Why would I need to drink this? That seems disgusting, Claire said while looking at the cup offered to her in disgust. Sid's eyes then turned into dragon slits as he said, for power. Claire then nodded and closed her eyes. She then took a deep breath before chugging the thing whole. After she was done she licked her lips and said, it wasn't that bad. Her eyes suddenly widened before she started rolling on the floor screaming in pain. When the pain stopped Claire was just on the floor breathing heavily and said, seriously Huff, you could have warned me Puff that it was going to be that painful. Sid just gave her a smile as he said nope. And with that they finished her upgrade and quickly dropped her off close to the house where Sid proceeded to pretend he was always there. As soon as she appeared the guards quickly called for the madam, who proceeded to run outside and give Claire a big hug. How did you escape? Asked the mom while looking all over Claire to see if she has any injuries. Claire just came up with a bullshit excuse and said, oh that, I just killed all the bandits. The mom believing her just continued just hugging her. Claire just backed away slightly and said, I have to get dressed, since I have to go to school in the capital now. The mother nodded her head and let her go. As Claire passed her mother and then Sid she quietly said, come to my room after a minute. Confused Sid just nodded and after walking around aimlessly for a few minutes Sid carefully came towards his sister's room. When he knocked on the door he said, hey Claire, it's me, I'm coming in. As soon as Sid entered he closed the door behind him and inside Claire was seen with her new school uniform bending over her study table. Her panties were on the table and her skirt was lifted all the way fully exposing her private part. As soon as Sid entered, Claire started shaking her hips as she said, come let's have a quickie before I leave. Sid stood there stunned for a bit before he proceeded to take a hold of his pants and walk towards Claire. Sid came out of Claire's room with a satisfied expression as he adjusted his pants and strutted his way outside where everyone waited to say goodbye. After waiting for a few minutes Claire came outside with a skip in her step and a satisfied expression. The mother and father then started hugging Claire and wished her safe travel, which was followed by Claire hugging Sid and whispering in his ear, you better visit me secretly, I know you can. After all you built an organization and took down bad guys mostly across cities in a single night, so you must have a teleportation ability. Sid just smiled and nodded and with that Claire got on the carriage and as it drove away Claire stuck her head out and started waving goodbye. Sid just shook his head and just as he was about to turn around and leave he heard something that caught his attention. Have you seen our granddaughter? She works in the estate as a maid and after her shifts she always comes home. But after yesterday she hasn't returned and we're worried about her. Sid quickly looked towards where he heard the conversation. He saw an elderly couple hugging each other with tears in their eyes as they asked the guard that was guarding the front gates. The guard just shook his head as he said, I don't know much but I heard there was a maid that went missing since yesterday and haven't heard from her. But she's only been missing for a day so maybe it's nothing to worry about. The old man just nodded as they went away and as they started walking away the elderly woman broke down into tears as the old man comforted his wife while holding back tears of his own. Sid just watched everything with an emotionless face hiding his true feelings on the matter and with his hands in his pockets started walking towards his room. Once he arrived in front of his room he put his hand on the doorknob to open it but froze in place. He then closed his eyes and softly exhaled while lowering his head before muttering, what have I done? He then turned his head to the side and saw the apparition of the maid he mercilessly killed. The maid was next to the door sitting down hugging her legs and her head in between them sobbing silently. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with me? Sid let go of the doorknob and crouched down in front of the girl. He then wrapped his arms around her ghostly figure and sincerely apologized. I know apologizing isn't going to undo my previous actions and undo all the harm I caused you, but I'm really sorry. Sid then sighed as he broke away the hug and put a hand on the girl's head. He then jokingly said, "This is my first time, so bear with me." He then started using his power alongside his life magic, reconstructing her body and brought her back alive. When he was done, he was still holding her head and said, "You shouldn't be burdened with the trauma of your death." He then started to erase her memories bit by bit of everything that happened previously. Now the maid stood by his door with a pile of sheets on her hand and her head down, still slightly unconscious. Sid then went into his room, and as he closed the door to his room, the maid slowly opened her eyes. After blinking a bit, she just tilted her head in confusion before just shrugging her shoulder and walking towards where she was previously going. Sid was just laying in bed with a hand stretched out into the sky. "Why did I do that?" Sid said while looking at his hand. He then summoned a black flame and started playing with it. "Since when did I start seeing people's life as something that can easily be disposed of and played with?" He then clenched the hand into a fist, extinguishing the flame. "I have become arrogant. My power has made me look at people's life like it's something I could do whatever I want with. I seriously almost destroyed a family because of my childish whims. Did I still see this world as just something of my imagination? No, I knew right from the start, this is a real world and not just some fantasy. Man, the old man would have been disappointed with what I done. This should be the first and last time I ever do that to someone so innocent," Sid said out loud and in all seriousness. Sid then put his arms down and just went to rest due to his mental exhaustion. Author's note: how do y'all think I did? I am unfortunately a people's pleaser. So I decided to comprise, kinda. I revived her. I used this as a type of character development, and from this moment forward the maid won't ever appear, so it's like she's dead. My own genius sometimes scares me. 37, Chapter 37. Author's note: this one's for you at Beaming Kangaroo. Sid's POV. It's been 2 years since Claire has gone to school, and a lot of things have happened during the years. For one, Claire has become a full-fledged member of Shadow Garden, raising through the ranks and becoming more powerful and skillful. With her strength coming to par with the 7 main members, she started to get along with everyone in Shadow Garden and started to respect them as well once she saw the changes they were doing around the world. One thing I didn't expect, which came off as something really unexpected and uncharacteristic, was the amount of respect she gained towards Alpha. Due to learning under Alpha for a bit, Claire saw her strength, her leadership skills, her charisma, and intelligence being constantly used. I mean, it's not really unexpected that Claire came to respect her now that I think about it. My wife is great after all. When Claire learned that I was the one that came up with their name, she demanded one too, and to just get it over with I just named her Adelphi, sister. The literal definition of it is sister. Am I ashamed of naming her that? No, I'm not. Apart from Claire, my relationship with the girls has been progressing smoothly, and we have even crossed the line, and it was a very good time. I remember the time, when they had to leave for the capital the next day of Claire leaving, they all started crying and saying how much they would miss me. They were all on top of me just bawling their eyes out. I had to constantly remind them that they could just as easily shadow travel to me whenever they miss me. But to them it didn't matter, that they were still going to miss me. And so that they don't miss me, they asked me to sleep and do it with every one of them, so it was a night to remember and cherish. And so in that night they all lost their virginity. But that's a story for another time. Now that I'm 15, it's time for me to go to the capital and go to school as well. In front of the gates of the estate, Mother is crying literal rivers of tears. My babies are so grown now, first Claire and now you. They grow up so fast. It feels like it was just yesterday you were sucking on my breast drinking milk, and now you're on your way to become a proper knight. Okay, now she's taking it too far. Come on Mother, you're embarrassing me. Mother then let me go from her long hug and wiped her tears with her napkin. The balding old man then came and patted me on the shoulder with tears glistening in his eyes as he said, "Take care of your sister over there, alright, and go show them what it means to be a Kajina." I just rolled my eyes at that. Yeah, I got it old man, don't worry. Anyways, I better hurry before it's too late. They both nodded, and with a nod back I went and entered the carriage that arrived for me. As soon as I entered and sat down, the driver got started and off we went towards the capital. Halfway towards the capital my shadow started moving. Slowly Delta crawled out from under it and got on her knees in front of me. "Delta honey, what are you doing?" Delta got hungry, and Delta always gets full when she gets to drink your meat's juices. Delta then closed her eyes, opened her mouth, and stuck out her tongue in anticipation. I shook my head at her antics, as I lowered my pants and took out my dick and brought Delta's mouth closer. As soon as my dick touched her tongue it grew even more erect than it already was, when looking at Delta's previous actions. When Delta felt my dick in her tongue her tail started wagging, showing her emotion. She closed her mouth slowly and started to slowly lick all around my shaft while bopping her head back and forth. Slurp 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 slurp. I had to but a sound-canceling barrier due to the noise she was making. "Ah, really Delta, you really know how to use your tongue," I said while petting and playing with her head and ears. He slurp, thanks slurp you slurp boa suyus slurp. Damn, Delta really started picking up the pace. I could just feel how her tongue is coiling around my dick. Delta, who is very hungry, goes even deeper and I start to feel the back of her throat wrap itself around my tip, making it even more sensitive. Guck 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 guck. Shit, she really is good, I'm close. I grab her head and push my dick even further down her throat and say, I'm coming Delta, here take it all, like the good girl you are. Splurt 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 splurt. Gulp 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 gulp. As my dick slowly escaped her mouth, Delta let out a satisfied sigh. Delta always satisfied after boss's milk. Delta wants just one more. Unfortunately we are close to the capital, so I have to stop her with a kiss on the forehead. Sorry Delta, I'm about to get off. But, what is Delta supposed to do, she said, giving me the puppy dog eyes. I just chuckle and shake my head at her antics. If you're still hungry you can always go hunting. Delta's ears and tail then droop down as she gain a downcast expression. Seeing this I just sigh as I grab her chin and lifted her head. We can always finish this later. Promise? She asked while pouting. I kiss her as I say promise. Delta then nodded as she sank on her shadow, leaving me alone with my dick out in the open. I quickly readjust myself, which was soon followed by a knock on the window by the driver. Young master, we have arrived. I look out the window and see that was indeed the case. The carriage has stopped right in front, Midgar Royal Spellsword Academy. Seeing that I arrived I slowly step out, and as soon as I did I seem to attract the attention of everyone due to my height and good looks. I'm 6 feet 3 inches, pretty tall for a guy my age. The girls slowly went and started whispering into each other's ears. Who's that? I don't know, but he's so hot. Does he belong to an influential family? You think he's single? While the boys just kept staring daggers, just wishing I go explode and die. Well, this is it, the beginning of my school life in this world. 38, Chapter 38. Sid's POV. One of the main things you first have to do in school is select your courses and elective. You know the usual, arithmetics, history, etc. For the practical elective I chose the Royal Bushan style. For 2 reasons, Alexia, and it could be the only place where I could still practice even when in school, since it'll be considered a class. When selecting the elective, the person in charge said, for this elective you have to take a practical test to decide at which group you best belong in. The groups are separated into proficiency, with Group 9 being the lowest and Group 1 having the most proficient. So where do I go to take this test? I asked, just wanting to get this over with. Here's a map of the school, so you got to go to the training hall here, said the guy I didn't bother remembering the name of, while pointing at a building on the map. Thank you, I said as I got everything else in order. I then made my way towards the training hall. When I went in the training hall, multiple students were lined up waiting to give their name and be tested. It would seem the test is a sparring match against none other than Xenon Griffey. Shocker. After waiting for like 30 minutes I was next in line. Name and what place do you think you belong in, said the person holding the line. Sid Kajanu, and Group 1. As soon as I said my name many gasped. Oh great, what did Claire do? I thought as I heard the exaggerated gasps behind me. I tried and listened carefully to what they were whispering to each other about. Is he related to that Claire Kajanu? The one that was said to be the most beautiful woman in Midgard and is even more powerful than Princess Iris. I heard that due to her strength and power many great noble family tried to recruit her into their military force but were quickly shot down no matter what anyone offered her. I heard that even the royal family went and tried to recruit her and failed, miserably as well when they tried to force her to join. I heard that due to her beauty she has received many marriage proposals but shot them down, but when they just kept coming and getting annoying she brutally beat them within an inch of their life. She got so annoyed to the point that she set an offer. She said she would happily marry anyone that could beat her brother when he enrolls to the academy. Okay, I heard enough. Did she really just throw all of her problems onto me? No freaking wonder some of the boys got super excited when they heard my name. Everyone and their mother probably heard of this offer. I'll deal with her when I get the chance. But now on to more important things. I went and grabbed the wooden sword that was presented to me and stood in front of Xenon, at a respectable distance. Xenon just nodded towards me and with a smirk said, I hope you're at least as good as your sister. I just gave a smirk of my own as I said, don't worry, I'm better. And with that I attacked him. With a step I completely disappear from everyone's view and reappeared in front of Xenon, catching him completely by surprise. Luckily due to his instinct he just manages to slightly block my sword swing, but it was at an awkward angle. I didn't give him time to readjust his position and sent more attacks his way. He would manage to block some but some would still work their way in. He would try and attack himself but I would always parry and return the assault with an even stronger force. Forearm, wrist, chest, and with a plunge into the stomach, Xenon was soon brought to one knee. Xenon was using his wooden sword as support and catching his breath, while I aimed my own sword right under his chin and right onto his neck. I hope that this is enough for me to be in Group 1. Xenon, while still catching his breath, slowly nodded. He then extended a hand to help him up. I really want to refuse, but in a school full of knights that would seem dishonorable. So reluctantly I had to help him up. He then took a firm grip on my hand and gave it a shake. Whoa, young man, you really are strong. Don't do that. Excuse me? He asked, confused. So I reiterated, don't patronize me, you weren't even trying. You can't really expect me to go all out on students, do you? This could barely be called a spar, so don't do that, it's disgusting. With that I just went and put the sword where they belong and tried to leave the training hall but couldn't cause of all the students blocking the way with a stunned expression. No one would have expected for me to beat him, it would seem. My voice then turned cold as I commanded move, which frightened them and caused them to scurry along and move out of the way. And just like Moses, I departed the sea of people and made my way towards the dorm rooms. Once I reached my assigned dorm, I quickly went inside and laid in bed. Feeling bored I went forth and using my shadow I called Alpha from it. "Hey Alpha, you busy?" "No, I always have time for you. Wanna come over for a bit?" "Sure, just let me organize everything." After a few minutes Alpha slowly appeared from the shadows and climbed onto bed with me. Wrapping my arms around her waist I pulled her closer and sank my face onto her chest. While my face was in her chest, even though I couldn't see her face, I knew she was smiling. She started to caress my hair playfully as she asked, "So how was it?" "Mentally exhausting. I just found out that almost every boy in the entire school body would be coming after my head cause of Claire's stupid offer." Alpha just started giggling slightly as she said, "To be fair my lord, it's thanks to your blood that Claire has turned out so pretty. So it was obvious she was going to receive male attention." "Oh, so you're saying it's my fault then, and what did we say about the my lord stuff when we're alone?" "And no, I'm not saying it's your fault, I was just I just stopped her before she could start rambling. I was joking, you can relax. And you're technically not wrong, but still she should be able to solve her own problems. I was just venting. But I wasn't joking about the my lord stuff. We've been together for 2 years already." Sigh, "You're right, but to me it still feels like I'm disrespecting you if I call you anything lesser. Any other name I try to come up just doesn't feel natural." I then looked up from her breast and shifted myself and got to an eye level with her. I slowly went and kissed her soft tender lips that tasted like spring as I said, "You can just keep calling me my lord if you want, or even just sit if it's easier for you." Alpha just smiled and gave me a kiss of her own and snuggled closer. "Thank you, my lord." And like that we spent the rest of the day cuddling. 39, Chapter 39. Sid's POV. It has been a week since classes officially started, and for the most part it has been relatively normal with nothing extraordinary going on. I would most likely leave a clone of myself here in the future since I could be doing something better with my time. It was now past lunchtime and I was in the training hall, where sword classes are taking place. For the past week I was mostly practicing the basics, and just the basics. But I was secretly surrounding my insides with gravity, making this basic workout even more of a challenge. Today it would appear that people are pairing up with each other for practice. Well, I'll just continue to practice on my own. When I went off to practice I felt a tap on my shoulders. Turning towards the person that tapped me, I find out that it's none other than the youngest princess of the Midgard kingdom, Alexia Midgard. Pic of Alexia. Third person's POV. While Sid was practicing by himself, Alexia tapped him in the shoulder. Irritated from being disturbed, he turned towards her and asked, "What do you want?" Alexia, taken aback by his attitude, said, "That's rude, I just wanted to ask you a question." "Well, ask your question and be done with it," Sid said as he resumed his previous exercise. "TCH, you think you're so good, don't you? Well, what I wanted to know was, why do you only do the basics? I have been watching you for a week. I thought for certain that someone of your strength would be practicing flashier moves." Sid, while still practicing, just side-eyes her before he says, "Because they're the most important." Alexia's eyes widen a bit at that. "Why do you think they're the most important?" Sid's shoulder slumped slightly as he mutters, "So annoying." Alexia, clearly hearing him, started getting annoyed, but all she did was clench her sword slightly, still awaiting his answer. The basics are the foundation to any and all swordplay. The more honed these bases are, the stronger that foundation is going to be. Sword fighting is like building a structure. If the foundation is all wonky, then the entire thing can easily collapse and it'll get you nowhere. But if that foundation is strong and just gets stronger, no matter what anyone does, they wouldn't be able to even chip any side of the structure. So the more I hone my basics, the stronger my fighting style is going to be. And the more I can build my way around it, without having to worry about anything falling apart. Alexia's eyes widen even further, not expecting to hear of something so profound. "I see," she softly whispered. She then walked a bit closer and demanded, "Let's spar." Sid just completely ignored her existence as if she wasn't there anymore. Seeing him not responding, Alexia clears her throat and demanded once again, "Let's spar." Once again, to Sid it was like her existence wasn't registering in his head. He would just continue to swing his sword in perfect arcs without any wasteful movements. Alexia, seeing the way Sid moved his sword, was almost entranced with it. "Let's spar," Alexia demanded with more vigor. Sid just closed his eye and breathed out, "Just leave me alone, you're being a bother. You're supposed to be a princess, so act like it. Go and be a pest somewhere else. TSK. Stop being such a jerk. There is no reason for you to be acting like this. Just cause your sister taught you how to fight doesn't mean you can act like this with everyone you meet." Sid stopped what he was doing and slowly turns his head towards her direction. And in a voice devoid of any emotions he asked, "What did you just say?" Alexia started to get goosebumps when she heard Sid, but wanting to stand her ground she replied with, "You heard what I said." Sid just looked into her eyes, which freaked out Alexia even more. Sid then turned his body with his wooden sword still in hand towards her direction. "Get in position." "What?" Alexia asked nervously. "Get in position." Yes sir, she squeaked out as she got into her fighting position, separating a respectable distance between them. Sid didn't give her a chance to attack first, he just casually swung his sword in her direction a bit, but due to the force she was sent sliding back. Sid then reappeared again in front of her and swung his sword with a bit more force, making her drop her sword. Sid just pointed his own sword at her while he just coldly said, "Pick it up." Alexia got more shaken up when she heard his cold voice and carefully picked up her sword. She then noticed almost everyone stopped what they were doing and were now looking at her. She slowly gulped when she saw all those eyes at her as she got into position. Sid, not caring about her predicament, started attacking again. Whether it was a forward slash or a sideways swipe, Sid didn't stop on his assault until both of their swords were broken. When they broke, he looked directly into her eyes as he said, "Don't assume things you don't know. My sister didn't teach me anything. My own skill and power come from my own efforts. I was the one that taught my sister, not the other way around." And with that, class soon ended and Sid started making his way towards his next class, leaving Alexia with a broken sword in her hands with a lot to ponder about. While walking towards his next class, a pair of students came up and blocked his way. "Hey, I heard you were Claire's little brother." Sid didn't bother to listen to them. He grabbed both of their head and slammed it onto each other, completely knocking them out. Sid just walked around them like nothing ever happened and went about his day. The next day, Sid was seen sitting down just eating his lunch alone in the cafeteria. Due to how he mostly beats up anyone that gets close to him, he has become somewhat of a loner. Not that he minded, he liked being alone. While eating, Alexia suddenly appears out of nowhere with a long tray of many different types of food. "Mind if I sit here?" Alexia asked with a smile. Sid just ignored her as he continued eating. Alexia, seeing him not responding, just sighed before sitting down in front of Sid and start lining up her food in front of herself. Alexia then started to eat her food with her noble etiquette. While cutting her meat, she just said, "I'm sorry." Sid stopped what he was doing and just raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry for spitting on your hard work. I shouldn't have said that even if it was true." "Okay, you're creeping me out. What is it that you want?" said Sid, putting down his own fork and knife. A tick mark then formed on Alexia's head. "What? I can't apologize for my mistakes. With the way you were acting yesterday, I would have thought you would throw around your title and demanded to be forgiven." "What? Just how low is your opinion of me?" "Almost non-existence. I barely know you. I literally just met you yesterday for the first time. Why would I have any opinions of you?" Alexia's cheeks then turned slightly red as she muttered, "Fair point." She then adjusted her sitting position to appear more presentable. "I want to ask you for a favor." "Of course you do," Sid said, rolling his eyes. Alexia, pretending she didn't see that, just continued, "Please teach me what you taught your sister. I know that you taught your sister because she's blood related, and since I have no relation with you, I have no right. But I want to get stronger, so please help me." Sid just looked at her for a bit longer. "Why should I help you? Like I previously said, I barely even know you." 40, Chapter 40. Author's note. I was bored, so I made a chapter. Hope you enjoy. Third person POV. "I thought you would ask me that. That's why I brought this," Alexia said as she proceeded to take out a large bag of coins and put them in front of Sid on the table. "I heard you guys come from a low noble household, so I would like to hire you to teach me what you know," Alexia said rather smugly, pleased with herself for thinking of something so smart. Sid just looked at her unimpressed. "I'm not broke." "What?" Alexia asked in a stunned expression. "I said I'm not broke. I can make good money, so what you are offering is virtually something worthless in my eyes." But, you come from such a small noble family, I thought that you were in need of funds. And thanks to my help you would be forever grateful that I would be helping you out with your money problems, that you would happily teach me." "Sigh, you really need to stop assuming things about me. You, yourself know that I'm strong enough that you want me to teach you. Why would you think I am in need of money? Since I'm strong, what makes you think I can't just go out and hunt rare creatures and sell their parts for money?" "I never really thought about it. I just thought you were one of those swords-obsessed hermits, the ones that didn't have a life and only live by the way of the sword. And human interactions was like your worst enemy. How the hell you want me to teach you and then start insulting me to my face?" Alexia flinched slightly as soon as Sid said that, and while blushing says, "Sorry, but it's true." Alexia then started getting fidgety in her seat. "So what do you want?" Sid just went back to eating. "What? I don't really want anything. You can't possibly have anything that I would want. So what is it that you want?" "I'm a princess. I can give you practically anything that you desire. I'm even willing to make the sacrifice of just going on one date with you." Sid just looked at her in disgust. Ew, as he just went back to eating. Alexia then slammed her hands on the table and stood up. What do you mean EW?" Alexia's face then grew red when she noticed she grabbed the attention of everyone in the lunchroom. Her face grew even redder when she heard them start talking about them. "Wow, look, it looks like the princess and the Dark Prince are sitting alone together." "Dark Prince? Why is that his nickname?" "It's due to his personality and looks. I mean, look at him. He's so beautiful. Aw, I wish he would just take me and choke me against the wall." "The hell is wrong with you? Just continue what you were saying about his personality. I was really interested on why they would call him the Dark Prince." "Huh. Oh right, he beats up anyone that bothers him. It's only been a week since this semester started and I heard he already sent more than 20 people to the nurse's office. That's why people are too scared to even go and talk to him. I mean, I totally would go and talk to him. Maybe if I go and talk to him now he would grab me by the neck, slam me across the wall and tell me to stop bothering him. Bites lip. Sigh. Why am I even friends with you, Mackenzie? Alexia sat back and with a red face asked, what do you mean EW? I'll have you know it would be an honor for you to even be in my presence. Just so you know, even though the week of this semester just started, I have been already asked out by more than 10 people. So me willing to sacrifice my time to go on a date with you should be something you should be extremely pleased about. The more you talk, the more I just don't want to help you. Alexia at this point starts panicking slightly, seeing none of her plans working, and so she resorts to her very last trick up her sleeve. Something she really doesn't want to do, but since none of her previous actions weren't working, she has no choice, she pleaded. She bowed her head just slightly. Please help me. What? Sid asked, not expecting Alexia to lower her pride for something like this. Please help me get stronger. I know you are strong, like really strong. I saw the way you dealt with Xenon. I was there during the test. I saw just how easily you dealt with him. You weren't even trying. After fighting him you said that he wasn't even trying, but the way I saw it, you weren't even trying either. Sigh. Why do you want to get stronger? Alexia looked up and with a determined expression said, I want to win against my sister. Alexia's fist then tightened. I'm always being compared to her, no matter what I do. I hate it. So I'm going to grow stronger and defeat her in front of everyone and show them that I'm not just her sister, I'm my own person as well. Sid just closed his eyes and sighed. Very well, but here's the thing, I won't teach you anything specific. We would be sparring every day in class, and if you manage to pick something up from them, good job towards you, I guess. But if you don't pick up anything, it's not my problem. You just suck and aren't meant to use a sword. Deal? Alexia, hearing him, pumped her fist. Yes. You seemed confident. That's good, I guess. Please, I'm great. Of course I'm going to pick some things up from our sparring sessions. Well, what are you waiting? Classes are about to start and I want to get started already. Sid stood up and put away his tray and started following Alexia. I'm regretting this already. Alexia, walking ahead, just scoffs. Oh please, you're going to spend the rest of the afternoon with me. What more could you possibly want? To spend it by myself away from you. I'm fun to be around, you don't know what you're talking about. The two of them soon reached the training hall, and went and got changed onto their fighting uniform. They both then stood at a respectable distance. Enhanced your sword with magic so it doesn't break that quickly. Alexia nodded and enhanced her sword. She then ran towards Sid and swung her sword towards him, which he masterfully deflected, making a counter-attack. Alexia, seeing his counter-attack, tried to block it as well but got pushed back due to the force. She fixed her stance, copying how he was standing, and took off running towards Sid once again. Sid didn't even attack using his sword, he used his leg and used a sweep under her feet, knocking her down. Don't copy me, use a stance you are most comfortable with. Using something you don't know while in the middle of a fight is suicide. Alexia, hearing him, just smirked and offered her hand to help her up. I thought you said you weren't using words to teach me. Sid just teased her back. Well, I realize you were too dumb to understand actions and needed words to make you understand. Alexia, not expecting to get teased, got stunned for a bit before smirking once again and getting back into a fighting position she was most comfortable with. While Sid did the same and they resumed their earlier sparring. Whether it was on how to properly hold a sword, to how to use a proper footwork, Sid started teaching her all the basics she had previously messed up. After a few minutes of sparring, more people started coming inside the room due to class starting, but Sid and Alexia just ignored them. With a smile on her face, Alexia started absorbing everything Sid was throwing at her. What Alexia didn't notice but Sid did, however, was the teacher Xenon watching them with narrowed eyes, watching their every move carefully, and what Xenon didn't notice, however, was a pair of purple glowing eyes watching him from the shadows. 41, Chapter 41. Author's note. This ain't an important chapter really, I'm just bored and really like Gamma. Third person's POV. It has now been a month since school started. Feeling bored, Sid decided to pay a visit towards Gamma's company earlier than expected. It wasn't that hard to find where it was. The building itself was standing out compared to all the other buildings. It was made using the knowledge Sid had given the girls about architecture. When Sid arrived in front of it, he saw the name that was used for their businesses. It was the same name they used in the original Mitsugoshi company. As soon as he entered, the girls working about immediately knew who he was. It would have been weird if they didn't. After all, why wouldn't they know the face of their main leader of their organization? Two girls dressed in work attire soon stood in front of Sid. What can we do for you today, sir? I'm just looking for Luna, replied Sid, Luna being Gamma's alias she used when undercover as the owner of Mitsugoshi. I shall inform Miss Luna of your arrival, sir, said the lady. Sid just patted her head. There's no need, Nu. I know where to find her. Pics of Nu. Nu getting her head patted blush as she asked, You know of me, sir? Sid then looked at her weirdly and in a low voice said, You are a part of Shadow Garden. Why wouldn't I know of you? What a weird question to ask. Nu then got embarrassed and lowered her head slightly, as expected of our Lord. Even though he isn't present for most of the time, he is aware of everything without even being there. Well, it was nice meeting you, Nu. I have places to be. Nu just bowed. It was good seeing you as well, my lord. With that, Sid started following Gamma's mana signature. When he arrived in front of her office, he didn't bother knocking and just marched right in. Gamma looked up from her piles of paper in surprise, as she didn't detect anyone approaching or gave permission for that person to enter. Sid just gave her a smirk as he said, Hello, my love. I came to give you a surprise visit. Gamma, seeing that it was Sid, squealed slightly in excitement. She dropped everything she was doing and started running towards Sid. When she got close enough, she couldn't contain her happiness and jumped into his arms and wrapped her arms around his neck. Sid just started chuckling as he held her by the waist and twirled her around. When he was finished, he still held her by the waist and went and took a seat where she was previously sitting with her on his lap. While sitting down, Gamma laid her head on his shoulder with her arms still wrapped around his neck. "You should have told me you were coming to visit. If I did tell you, then it wouldn't be a surprise visit now, would it?" He, I guess it wouldn't. "But why did you decide to visit me, hubbies?" said Gamma while squeaking the hubby part at the end with a flushed face. "Isn't obvious? I miss you and I'm worried about you. Out of all of the girls, you are probably the most busy at the moment, so we barely have time to see each other. Plus you're working all the time. No matter how many enhancements or upgrades you get, you'll still grow exhausted from constantly working and no breaks. Kya, it feels nice to have someone worry about you," Gamma thought, unable to contain her smile. Sid, seeing her smile, gave a smile of his own and kissed the side of her head. "So what were you doing before I came in?" Gamma just sighed as she let go of Sid and while still sitting on his lap reached out for the papers in her desk and showed them to Sid. "I was overlooking our earnings and profits. Due to how new and recent we are, not a lot of people have heard of us. So while the earnings are high, the profits aren't. It'll take a while for our name to become trusted and well known. So far what we're doing is advertisements. We got some of the girls to disguise themselves and join major house parties around the kingdom and showcase what they are wearing. When asked where they got such high-quality goods, our name would be mentioned, spreading it all over. So when many people keep hearing the name of our company over and over again, it will get more people interested. And when those people realize the quality of our goods, they will mention our name to their friends and their friends to their friends, etc. So what do you think? I used everything you taught us about business. Even though it's still in the beginning stages, just looking at the numbers I can already see a significant increase." Gamma then turned her head towards Sid looking for praises. Sid just grabbed her chin and pulled her close for a kiss. After kissing for a few minutes, their lips separated. "You, my little witch, never fail to surprise me. You were always the one with the better business sense out of everyone," said Sid. "On an unrelated note, I just have a tiny question." "Yes?" Gamma asked, batting her eyelashes in a quick manner. "Are you ever going to take off the witch hat I gave you?" asked Sid while looking at the witch's hat Gamma still had on since they were little. "She hasn't taken it off even once. It was like it became a part of her permanently." Gamma just flashed Sid a smile as she said, "Nope," popping the P. "Why? Doesn't it get in the way of your disguise when you put on the Luna persona?" "No, not at all. I used the stealth skill you gave us, but instead of using it on myself, I use it on the hat so it turns almost completely invisible with no one being able to see it, except for my lord, as nothing could be hidden from your eyes." "I see. I'm curious, why do you like it so much?" "It was just a gift." Gamma just took a hold of the hat and lowered it slightly, covering her eyes. "To me it's more than just a gift, to me it's a presentation of the confidence you have in me. I would have been nothing without you, my lord. This hat shows me that you believe I could be someone important and have the skills to do it. To me this hat is a reminder that you have faith in me and it keeps pushing me forward." Sid gave Gamma a tight hug and asked, "How can you be this adorable?" Gamma just took a hold of the hat with both her hands and brought it all the way down, covering her face to not show how embarrassed she was. Sid and Gamma sat like that for a while, not long before hearing a knock on the door. "My lady, I brought back the report of our recent sales and profits." Nu just opened the door with a folder of papers in her hands. When she saw Sid and Gamma, she just slowly closed the door as she said, "I guess I'll come back when you're not busy." Nu quickly closed the door and walked out of there, not wanting to bother them on whatever they were doing. Gamma then buried her face in her hands. "Kya, I can't believe someone saw us like this, how embarrassing." Sid, teasing her, asked, "Oh, so you're embarrassed to be seen with me?" Gamma, hearing him, panicked and waved her arms around frantically. No, that's not what I meant. What I meant was." Sid just chuckled as he shook his head. "Gamma, I'm just teasing you, relaxed." Gamma, hearing him, gained a stunned expression before pouting. Sid just chuckled once again and kissed her cheek once more. "It was a fun visit, but I have to quickly leave." Gamma, hearing him, whispered, "Do you have to leave so soon?" Sid just grabbed her face and kissed her for a few more minutes, which quickly turned passionate. "I wish I could stay as well, but I have things to do." Sigh, "Very well, be sure to visit more often." Sid just stood up and put Gamma back where she was sitting and gave a peck on her lips. "You can visit me as well when I'm not busy, you know." Gamma gave Sid a quick nodded and quickly grabbed his collar, pulling him into another deep kiss. With a sigh, Sid softly backed away. "You really are making it difficult to leave." Sid then gave her another quick peck before leaving her office and going back to school. 42, Chapter 42. Third Person's POV. 1 month. I have given her 1 full month for her to come and at least acknowledge her mistakes. But I think that was wishful thinking on my part, thought Sid as he exited the Mitsugoshi company, making his way towards the school. Just when he was to enter, he was blocked by a hand that reached out in front of him. "Hey, wait a minute. You're Sid Kagino, right? Do you have a few seconds? I want to talk to you about something important." The person who stopped Sid from advancing was none other than Iris Midgard, the first princess of the Midgard kingdom. Pics of Iris. "I'm in a hurry. I have to meet someone right now before they run away," said Sid, wondering why the princess would even stop him. The only thing he could think of, that would have any significance is his daily sparring sessions with her sister. But he didn't think that would really warrant her attention. It would cause her to investigate him, not stop him in middle of his walk. "I promise it'll be quick," said Iris confidently. Sigh. "Fine, I guess I could spare you a few minutes." Iris just nodded. "First off, I want to thank you for being friends with my sister. Due to her upbringing, she rarely had the chance to make actual friends. So thank you for that, and thank you for helping her grow stronger as well. Friends is really pushing it, but you're welcome, I guess. As for the other thing, I want you to join the Crimson Knights." Sid simply raised an eyebrow at the invitation. It looks like she started her recruitment process earlier than expected. I wonder why. The Crimson Knights were formed during Alexia's kidnapping. I wonder just what happened for her to start this early. "And what is this Crimson Knights thing you are asking me to join?" Iris, still maintaining her serious expression, says with a small smile, "It all started with your sister actually. After she defeated me, easily in fact, I realized something. I realized that I'm still too weak to protect my kingdom. If I want to make sure that my kingdom is safe, I needed help. So I started gathering people under me of like-mindedness, people that care about this kingdom. The Crimson Knights, they would technically be the public enforcement that keeps order to the public and helps them in time of need. And I would like you to join. I have heard of strength. I heard that no matter how many students challenged you, you always prevail, that your strength is like no other. I even heard praises from Alexia herself. Which I should also thank you for that as well. Thanks to you, my sister has been opening up to me more." Sid looked at Iris, who had her fist in front of her as she proclaimed her ideals, and without even thinking about it replied, "Don't wanna." Iris, who had held her fist and was clearly satisfied with her speech, slowly blinked as she looked at Sid. "Excuse me." Sid just shrugged his shoulder. "I said I don't wanna." It seemed like a hassle. Why, what could be nobler than serving the kingdom you love? Maybe staying away from your patriotic self, Sid thought. "I could think of multitude of things. Could you at least give me a reason why you refuse to join? I just don't see the appeal. I'm more into growing stronger than helping people I don't know, so if I join your little knight group I feel like my time training would be cut short. I'm not saying that what you're doing isn't great. It's just not for me." Iris then gained a stunned expression. "Isn't that really selfish to just be thinking about yourself?" Sid just looked deep into her eyes as he asked, "And what's wrong with that?" "What?" Iris asked. "What's wrong with being selfish? Just cause I'm thinking about myself and putting my wants in front of others, I'm suddenly the bad guy or something?" Sid asked. Iris then sighs. "Well, no." Sid nodded. "Good. Now if you don't mind, I have an irresponsible sister to catch." Sid didn't even wait for her reply and went to find his sister. Iris just stood outside the school, still bewildered about what just happened. "Sigh, it looks like I'm not getting neither of siblings. Claire said that she would only join if I managed to convince her brother to join. But based on what we just discussed, it seemed very unlikely. I'll have to keep an eye on them. Their strength is dangerous if I don't monitor them correctly. Especially Sid. Even though I was the princess, he didn't show an ounce of respect towards me." Iris though wasn't going to give up. She'll get both of the Kajina siblings to join, even if it's the last thing she'll do. And with that she went on her way, coming up with a plan. Meanwhile Sid started to spread his senses widely, looking for Claire's mana signature. Once he got a reading, he closely followed it. When he did, he found her having lunch with a group of girls. Quietly Sid appeared behind her undetected. When H appeared, the girls that were chatting with Claire quickly turned quiet and started shaking slightly when they saw his irritated expression. Claire, seeing her friends quiet down, saw a shadow looming over her. "Sigh. He's behind me, isn't he?" Claire asked her friends, who nodded their heads slowly. Claire just breathed out before quickly turning around and facing Sid. "Well, if it isn't my most beloved, handsome, powerful, nicest, and favorite brother in the whole wide world. What can I do for you?" Claire spouted with a wide smile and a happy-go-lucky expression. Sid just looked at her unimpressed. "I'll give you 5 seconds to run." Claire didn't even waste a second and skedaddled out of there. Sid just looked at her friends, who were all a part of Shadow Garden, and pointed his finger at them with narrowed eyes. "You guys better not have been involved in this mess." They all just shook their head, not wanting to get in trouble with their boss. Sid just nodded, accepting their answers. "That has been 5 seconds, she's dead when I catch her." Sid then started running to where Claire ran through, following her path. Maneuvering his way through students, Sid started to catch up with her very quickly. While running away, Claire looked back and saw Sid right behind her, which caused her to scream, "Wahhhhhhhh, stop chasing me. Will you stop if I apologize?" Sid didn't answer and quickly caught up with her. When he caught up, he grabbed Claire's cranium in a vice grip and tightened his grip, making her cry out in pain. "Owie, Owie, Owie, I'm sorry, Owie, Owie, Owie." Sid just looked at her coldly while they were being looked at by the nearby students, watching their antics like they were watching a play. "I shouldn't have used you as a shield," said Claire between her cries of pain. Sid just squeezed tighter. "What else?" Claire, trying to make him release her, said with teary eyes, "I shouldn't have thrown you with all the responsibility of having to fight all of my suitors and not even talk to you about it. I genuinely feel bad. Okay, I'm sorry." Sid just sighed as he released her head. Claire just started rubbing the sides of her head. "What if you made me bald, you bastard?" Sid narrowed his eyes when he heard her. "What was that?" Which quickly shut Claire up. "Nothing, I didn't say anything. You must be hearing things. Has fighting all my suitors gave you an injury that made it hard of hearing? Now I'm starting to feel really bad." Side no, but fighting them did make me realize how sad your existence is. They all just want to date you for your looks and not your personality. What a poor pitiful soul you are. Scoffs like I need their approval. Sid just put on an expression like he was about to cry. You are now deluding yourself into thinking that. Claire just gained a pissed expression as she went and kicked Sid in the shins, but instead of Sid being the one in pain, it was Claire. She was hopping on one foot as she loudly said, just what are you made of? Did you really enhance yourself with magic at the last moment to hurt me? You're so cruel. Then ask for my permission next time you plan to use me as shield. Claire and Sid just continued to bicker with each while everyone just looked at them in confusion and almost not believing what they saw. Due to how they act when they are separated, it was hard to believe they were the same person when they saw them acting like that together. 43, Chapter 43. Author's note. Feeling generous. Here's another one. Third person's POV. Claire was seen waking up the next day laying down on Sid's arm. When Claire woke up she stretched out her sleepiness but quickly woke up when she saw the time. Oh shit, we're going to be late, Claire said. She then started to shake Sid, waking him up. We have to hurry, classes are about to start. Sid, still not wanting to get up, just whined, do we really have to get up? Claire sighed as she rubbed her bottom cheeks that were painfully red in color. I don't want to get up after receiving such punishments yesterday either, but we have no choice. Sid with a smug expression still laid there with his hands behind his head. That punishment was well deserved and you know it. I mean, for you it wasn't even a punishment with how much you were moaning to hit you harder last night. Claire just put on a perverted expression remembering their night together. She quickly gave Sid a kiss on the lips as she said, can you quickly clean us up with your magic? You're better at using it than me. Sid just sighed before lifting his arm slightly and conjuring a magic circle on his palm with runic symbols. When Sid activated the magic circle, its power soon enveloped the whole room including them. It was a cleaning magic circle. Sid, years studying ancient languages and magic circles, and the one he used the most was the ones used for cleaning. Claire, feeling herself cleaned and smelling better, just let out a sigh of relief before kissing Sid once again. Thank you. With that, Claire quickly left her room, closing it behind her, and made her way towards her class. While Sid just laid there not wanting to get up. Although he did get up reluctantly and started to get dressed and sink into his shadow. When he reappeared he was back in his room, which he exited and went to class. And just like that another month soon passed. Alexia was seen with a sword in hand and a stance she managed to make in which she was the most comfortable in. While in position she was looking at Sid, studying his every movement. Are we going to be using magic for this one? Sid thought about it for a bit. Sure, I'll allow it, maybe it'll give you an advantage. Alexia just clicked her tongue at his provocation and let her magic flow throughout her entire body and into her sword, enhancing both of them. With a quick step Alexia soon appeared in front of Sid and delivered a vicious sword strike, but Sid managed to block it with the flat side of his wooden sword. Alexia didn't stop there. Seeing that her slashes were working, she started using the sword as a spear, sending multiple stabs with the pointed part of the sword. Sid just kept blocking them. After a while Sid tried to disarm Alexia, but she held onto her sword tightly, learning her lesson. Sid then started attacking Alexia while she had to defend herself. Whether they were from slashes or stab wounds, Sid kept Alexia on her toes. It was hard, but after a few minutes Sid deliberately left himself open, which gave Alexia the perfect chance to counterattack. As she went to attack, she noticed it was a feint, a trick to get her. It was too late for her to fix her mistakes and Sid slammed his sword on top of Alexia's head. Alexia was crouched on the ground holding the top of her head. Ouch, did you have to hit me that hard? Sorry, not sorry, how else are you supposed to learn otherwise? Some people leave themselves open and vulnerable, but it's all just a trap, and the sooner you learn this, the better it'll be for you. I get it, but you still hit me so hard. Do you have a grudge towards me or something? Alexia said, standing up but still rubbing her head. While they started discussing what Alexia could improve, Xenon approached them with his signature friendly smile. I see you are still sparring with the princess even after all this time, he said. As soon as he approached, Sid thought back to what he heard from Xenon's shadow. It appears that Xenon has told the Diabolos cult about Sid and his abilities, but they didn't take Xenon seriously. After all, why should they be worried about a kid that's only 15 years old? To the Diabolos cult, who have been alive for centuries, their confidence is at the all-time high. So why should they waste their time on a kid that hasn't even experienced life? Although it disappointed Xenon, he still chose to maintain a close visual of Sid, monitoring his movement. And what he has found so far is nothing that seems to be that amazing. Xenon thought that maybe the higher-ups were right. Maybe Sid was just a kid and he was worrying about nothing. To Xenon, Sid just started to become the perfect scapegoat for his ultimate plan if Alexia doesn't accept his proposal. So Alexia, have you thought about what we have previously discussed? Asked Xenon with a charming smile. Alexia just looked at him in disgust and wrapped her hands around Sid's arm. She pulled Sid closer, making their face touch. She then whispered in a really low voice, please play along. She then gave Xenon a reply in a super dramatic tone. Sorry to burst your bubble, but Sid and I have fallen too deeply in love with each. I don't think I can picture a life with nobody else apart from him. I'm going to have to decline your proposal. I think I'll just absolutely kill myself if I'm with someone else that's not him. Xenon just shook his head with a chuckle. You can't keep running from this forever, princess. Alexia just looked at him all innocently. I have no idea what you're talking about, I'm just a little girl. What you're talking about seems all grown up, something I just can't seem to grasp. Xenon just narrowed his eyes and went back to teaching the students. As soon as he left, Alexia just spit to the side, disgusting. While raising an eyebrow, Sid asked, "You want to tell me what that was all about?" Sorry for dragging you into this. That annoying bastard is trying to get engaged to me, which is the last thing I want. Oh, and why is that? As people that are deeply in love with each other, I feel like we should tell each other everything, Sid said with a teasing smirk. Alexia's face then grew flustered as she stuttered, I was just joking, it was all an act. You couldn't have possibly taken me seriously. Sid just playfully shrugged his shoulder. I don't know, your love confession sounded pretty real to me. I have to be careful just in case you start falling for me for real. Alexia's face just got redder as she punched him in the arm. Idiot, she said softly. Still, why don't you want to get married to him? I heard he's a great bachelor. Alexia, getting rid of her red face, just look at him like he was an idiot. I mean, just look at him. I don't get why, but he gives me the creeps. And that smile he has on, it's clearly a mask. I don't know what he's hidden, but I know it's not anything good. Please let's not talk about him when he's around. Let's just go back to sparring. And with that, Alexia picked up her wooden sword and got ready for more of Sid's lessons. 44, Chapter 44. Author's note. I know what you guys might be wondering, author. What an unexpected surprise. We're happy to see you. All I can say to that is that I'm here unwillingly. This crazy girl by the name of a beaming kangaroo busted through my front door, aimed a gun to my head and just looked into my eyes for a few seconds without saying a word. Until she spoke just one word. One word that ignited all of this. Upload. That's all she said before she left. Please send help. Third person's POV. Can you come out with me today? I want to discuss something with you, said Alexia when their class ended. Sid just nodded, seeing nothing wrong with that. And so started their little date that's not really a date. Sid started to explore the capital with Alexia as she asked him for a favor. Can you pretend to be my boyfriend for a while, until he leaves me alone and finally decides that it's not worth his time to keep chasing after me? Sorry, I don't think I can. Alexia then looked at him in confusion and grew teary-eyed. Is it that you can't, or is it that you won't? What's wrong with me that even dating me for pretense is something you can't do? Sid just looked at Alexia like she's being weird. There's nothing wrong with you. I really can't date you. I'm incapable of doing it. After all, I'm married. Sid showed Alexia the ring he always had on with a multicolored gem on his ring finger. When Sid took Alpha's and the others' virginities, he crafted a ring with multiple enchantments and gave it to each of them. Each ring had gems that give off a shine the same color as their eyes. While each time Sid took their virginity, the color of their mana would then be engraved into the gem of his ring, making it multicolored. Alexia's brain blue screened when he showed her his hand. Alexia's face then started growing red with shame and embarrassment. I was falling in love with a married man. I almost became a home wrecker. God, I'm so embarrassed. It's no wonder he didn't pay attention to my advances. It's not because I'm not beautiful, it's because he's taken. Yeah, I don't think my wives would appreciate it if I just started randomly dating the princess of a kingdom, said Sid nonchalantly as he bought ice cream for the both of them. Alexia stood still with the ice cream in hand and had to do a double take. Wait, what? Wives? With an S? As in plural? I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said? I'm not sure I heard you correctly. Sid just looked at her, wondering what's wrong with her today. I said. Yeah, I don't think my wives would appreciate it if I just started randomly dating the princess of a kingdom. Alexia nodded her head with the ice cream still in her hands. Yeah, I thought I heard that. What the FFFFFFF? Deep breaths, take deep breaths. The hell you mean wives as in more than one? How is that possible? How did the church even approve of such a thing? Polygamy is not something the church condones. Huh, why the hell would I go to the church to get married? Alexia just looks at him like he's the biggest moron in the entire world. While Sid does the same, he looks at her like that's the dumbest idea he's ever heard. They kept staring at each other like that while eating their ice cream. Alexia closes her eyes and softly mutters, "Oh my god, you're serious. I can't believe he actually asked me that." Author's note, is there an actual god in EIS? I mean, there's a church, so there must be a god, right? Or does the church only pray for the hero's guidance? With a sigh, Alexia starts explaining it's for the protection of the goddess, so you can have a healthy relationship and your relationship gets blessed, etc. Alexia then went on to explain the multitude of reasons on to why. She then finishes it off with, so since you didn't technically get married through the church, your marriage doesn't technically count. As soon as Sid heard this, he started dying of laughter. Ha 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 ha, that's hilarious. My god, Alexia, I didn't know you could joke like that. Alexia started looking at Sid with a bit of worry and pity. Did hearing his marriage doesn't actually count break his heart and made him lose his mind? Poor thing. Just as Alexia was about to comfort him, Sid wiped his tears from his eyes for laughing too hard and shook his head, almost disappointed with her. Alexia, you poor ignorant child, I sometimes envy your naivete. It's such a nice thing to have. Sid's face then turned cold along with his voice. Listen well, since this is the only time I'm going to say this. I don't need nobody's blessing or reassurance that I'm married to someone. If I say me and this person are married and that person accepts, then we're married. I don't need some higher power to tell me or define my relationship with someone. And what does my relationship with them need protection from? They're all very good women, so I don't have anything to worry about. if they weren't I wouldn't have married them now, would I? My wives all accept the title of my wife graciously, just as I do the same as their husband. So don't insult my relationship with technicalities. Alexia almost stood there stunned, she never heard someone speak to her like that, especially in that type of tone. Did my comment really piss him off that much? Just how much does he love them? Alexia lets out a sigh with a smile on her face. You must really love them for you to get so defensive about this. I'm almost kinda jealous. Sid's face and tone just went back to normal like nothing ever happened and said, you don't have to really worry about the sword instructor. I mean, you literally said we were in love with each other in front of the whole class. What's the point of even asking me now? Look, there's even people pointing at us right now and whispering things about our relationship. Alexia hearing this grew red with shame. I said that about a married man. Kill me now please. She then looked around and saw students that were out and about pointing and softly whispering about them. No way, the princess and the dark prince are on a date, so the rumors were true after all. Kya, they look so cute together. The black and white together really is a nice contrast. It's like two opposites coming together to form this beautiful scene. Oh man, the princess is so lucky. I want to go on a date with someone who's at least as good looking as him. I still wouldn't mind if he took me up against the wall and had his way with me. I'm all tingling just imagining it. Mackenzie, we talked about this. Alexia grew slightly anxious at that. I'm not going to get you in trouble with your wives, am I? Sid just shook his head. Nah, don't worry, they are very understanding. Once I explain everything they will understand. Alexia let out a sigh of relief. And just like that, the two spent the rest of the day exploring the capital under the watchful eyes of students. Author's note. I may or may not, could possibly, be working on a Spider-Man fanfic. Haven't published it yet. I have already written 8 chapters, so I want to know what's your favorite Spider-Man suit. For me it's the Ben Reilly's, don't know how to spell it, sensational Spider-Man suit. So yeah, what's your favorite? Pics here. 45, chapter 45. Third person's POV. It's been 2 weeks since the rumor of Sid going on a date with Alexia has started to spread, all over the school. It was to the point where Sid had to send a note in advance towards his wives so they wouldn't come knocking down the door and demanding an explanation. Sid knows they wouldn't do that, but he did it just in case. You can never know with them honestly. Sid mostly sent it with the intent to stop Beta from doing anything crazy, since she's the most likely to appear if she heard Sid is dating a princess. During those 2 weeks Sid has kept the appearance of dating Alexia, by taking her on dates and holding her hands in public. Due to the constant contact with Sid, Alexia's feelings for him have been all over the place. She knows she shouldn't develop feelings for him, after all he's a married man, but she couldn't help it. To her the fruit that is most forbidden is the juiciest one. Right now both Alexia and Sid are both sitting down on an empty train. You know, I've been thinking about what you told me previously, said Alexia while leaning on her seat. And what did I tell you? You can't expect me to know what thing you're talking about. We did do a lot of talking after all. When I told you about how I hated my swordsmanship, you told me that to hate my swordsmanship is the same as hating myself, that how I wield my sword is a representation of who you are. You also said that there's nothing wrong in being simple when doing things, that there is beauty in simplicity. The last part stuck with me. Alexia paused for a while thinking about all the simple things in life that have beauty to them, the days she spent with Sid. They were such simple moments, but they were a wonderful memory to have. Alexia lets out a small smile as she says, I think you're right. There is a beauty in the small things. Thanks to you I don't think I hate my swordsmanship as much as I used to, and thanks to that I was able to see a small improvement on them as well. What's up with this mushy feeling type of vibe you're releasing, and why bring it up? Alexia just shrugged her shoulder before getting slightly embarrassed. She softly scratched her cheek as she said, well, I guess I just wanted to express my gratitude. You're talking like it's your few minutes left alive. Stop it, it's weird. Alexia just started chuckling, which just weirded out Sid even more. Seriously, is my good looks that awesome that they leave girls feeling vulnerable and open up to me? I should get that under control. Alexia then stood up and started stretching. She then waved Sid goodbye sensually. He's already married to other girls. What's one more to the mix? I'll do it. I'll make him fall in love with me. So much so that he forgets about the other girls. Just wait and see. Alexia got off the train with a determined expression. The next day, Sid is slowly making his way towards class. Well, I guess I got to get interrogated. Though if she didn't put up a fight I would be disappointed. As soon as Sid was about to enter the school ground he was surrounded by all sides with knights. I see, thanks to my known strength they have more reinforcement. Sid decided to just play along. Although normally I would like this much attention, I would have at least preferred it if it was a bunch of girls doing it. Xenon stood in front of Sid with a hand on his sword ready to pull it out. And with a serious tone he said, please come with us quietly, we don't want any sorts of trouble. Princess Alexia has been missing since yesterday night and no one had seen her. You are the last known person to have been reported to have been seen with her last. So you, until proven innocent, you are under arrest for the kidnapping of royalty. Sid just raised a brow and looked around. He saw some of the guards with them have fresh wounds on their bodies, which just made him snicker. Xenon's expression turned darker. It's something I said funny. Sid just gave a casual smile as he shook his head. Nope, not at all. Well, gentlemen lead the way I guess, and this lowly noble will follow. Xenon just narrowed his eyes when looking at Sid, this is not what he expected. He's supposed to be fighting back and denying these accusations. Why is he taking everything with stride? Does he have a plan? Impossible, this was a surprise attack, there's no way. Alexia's POV. Waking up in a cell is the last thing I wanted, maybe in Sid's arms, not in a cell. TSK, my magic is seal. These stupid chains, is that why Sid said to not always rely in magic but in your body? Sigh, how does he always know what's for the best? Shit, they're going to think he's done something to me if I go missing for too long. While I was deep in thought thinking of all possible consequences as Sid may be facing because of me, I heard the sound of chains rattling. It couldn't be mine. I was laying down perfectly still, being able to turn my head. I looked towards the direction of the sound. It looks like a creature with dark skin and it looks like it's in pain, poor thing. While looking at the pitiful creature I heard the sound of quick footsteps fast approaching. Soon a lanky man appeared wearing a lab coat while holding an empty syringe. I will finally have it. With the blood of a royal all of over ambitions will come into fruition. With the blood of the demon all of my dreams would come true, the crazy scientist says, clearly excited. The crazy scientists then came and put the syringe near my veins. I want to struggle, scream, and shout, but I know that's foolish. The more cooperative I am the safer I'll be, even though I hate it. Think about everything Sid has taught you. If I remain calm in any situation I can always find a way out. I just got to abide my time and wait for the perfect opportunity to escape. Sigh, I just hope nothing too drastic happens to Sid because of me. I would totally feel responsible if it does. 46, Chapter 46. Author's note. People in the comments have been cursing me to be bored, so it happened. Here's another one. Testing something with this. Third person's POV. Sid could be seen with his arms spread out while hanging from the ceiling, with chains holding his arms up. Whip. He. Tell us where the princess is. Whip. Ha 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 ha, you pretty bastard must have taken her somewhere. Whip. The guards just kept whipping Sid's back in delight and with a sadistic smile. Sid's, who lowered his defenses, had his back covered in lashes. His skin was basically open as blood just kept pouring down. Sid didn't make a sound as he had his eyes closed, taking everything with stride. Sid opened his eyes, which now had a purple glint in them, as he said in a cold voice, "Bear, don't." The guards just started laughing even harder. Ha 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 ha, did this bastard finally lose it? He's talking to himself now. Ha 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 ha, I almost feel bad for the bastard. Whips. Ha 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 ha, almost. Whips. Sid didn't have a reaction and just continued talking. I'll let you deal with them yourself later on, but not right now. How does that sound? Sid nodded his head after a few seconds before closing his eyes once again. Meanwhile, Xenon is reporting what happened to Iris in her office. He's being strangely cooperative. He didn't fight back when we told him we were going to interrogate him. The most strange part is that he didn't even seem surprised when we surrounded him. It's almost like he knew this would happen. Iris, while on her seat, put on a pondering expression and with a worried tone asked, well, did he say where he's keeping Alexia? Does he know at least who's done it if it isn't him? Anything? Is he saying anything that could at least be useful? Xenon just shook his head. Regrettably, he isn't saying anything. Every time we ask him questions he just answers it with the same answer he's given to the other questions, and I quote, "I'm not answering any stupid questions that you yourself already know the answer to," end quote. That is all he's saying at the moment. Before Iris and Xenon could continue their discussion, the door to their meeting room was kicked down by Claire, looking at both of them with an enraged expression. Xenon quickly went towards Claire to calm her down. "Wait, Ms. Claire, please don't do anything." Before Xenon could continue, Claire grabbed him by the face and threw him towards the ground between both herself and Iris. Xenon could be seen just embedded on the floor, unable to escape due to the force of which Claire threw him. Claire's magic then started to come out of her body, showing just how pissed off she was. She walked slow and heavy steps towards Iris's desk, stepping on Xenon on the way. Claire instinctively started to release a bit of her dragon fear, which started to make Iris sweat where she was sitting. Has she always been this scary? I guess I could be the same if something happens to Alexia, so it's understandable, thought Iris with cold sweat. Wait, Claire, it's understandable that you are angry, but this is a very important matter. Claire was having none of it. With clenched teeth and a crazed look in her eyes, she looked deep into Iris's eyes as she said, "You're going to shut the fuck up and listen to me when I'm talking to you. If you don't return my little brother soon and in perfect condition, there will be hell to pay. I don't care how many of you I have to kill or how much of this shitty kingdom I have to burn down for you to do it. Do I make myself clear?" Iris just looked into Claire's eyes to see if she was bluffing, but all Claire's eyes told were an untold promise of pain and misery. For a sec she thought she saw Claire's eyes turn into a dragon slit, but that couldn't be possible, so she chalked it up to her imagination and fears. After all, they did poke this dragon's reverse scale. Getting her bearings together, Iris tries and put a brave front. "My sister is in danger, and your brother." Iris didn't make it far with her statement as Claire smashed her fist into the table, destroying it. Claire's expression just got angrier and in a louder voice reaffirmed her previous statement. "I said, do I make myself clear?" Iris just shrinks back in fear but still doesn't want to appear weak. "I'll see what I can do about it." Claire just continued to look into her eyes, with an expression that gets crazier by the second. Claire just grabbed Iris by her shirt and pulled her in closer. "If I don't see my brother." Claire didn't finish her threat, she just left it to Iris's imagination. She released Iris with a scoff and went back the way she came from, but not before stepping on Xenon once more. Meanwhile with Alexia. Alexia is still tied up in chains that sealed her magic. She now has multiple holes by her arm showing just how much blood she's losing. All the time she's been here she has tried to make conversations with the monster-like beast next to her cell. "So, you come here often. I'm new around here if you couldn't tell. So how's life treating you? Not good huh?" I could relate. You see I started catching feelings for a guy I shouldn't, crazy right? He's married, but not at the same time. Don't tell him I said that it's a touchy subject for him. But since they're technically not married that means I still have a chance. You don't think I'm deluding myself, do you? Of course you don't, you understand me. Imagine me, a princess, catching feelings for a noble of the lowest caliber. It's almost like a fairy tale story. Now I just have to come up with a plan to seduce him. What? What are you talking about that it wouldn't work since he sounds like he loves all of his wives? Tisk you're right, new plan, you ready for this? I meet his wives right, you following? And I get them to really like me, which should be fairly easy thing to do. I mean come on just look at me what's there not to like? When they start to like me they would try and convince Sid to add me to his harem. I know right, it's a genius idea, foolproof, my genius sometimes scares even myself. While Alexia was making a fool of herself the lanky guy with a white lab coat appeared once again. This time instead of a syringe it's grub he's carrying and not the good-looking kind. When Alexia saw it she put on a weary smile. I don't think I would get all my nutritional value from just that. The lanky scientists just put on a sinister expression. It's not supposed to be healthy, it's just supposed to make you produce more blood. These freaking vampires, muttered Alexia. As the lanky man came closer and forcefully fed her the disgusting food into her mouth. All Alexia could do was eat it reluctantly. 47, Chapter 47 half R18. Author's note. This is for a Discord friend that said they were bored. You know who you are, well enjoy. Third person's POV. While Sid was getting whip, a guard came through the door quickly. The princess demanded for him to be released earlier than usual, he exclaimed as he entered. The guard holding the whip just clicked his tongue. Why should we don't follow orders from that bit dash. The guard with the whip stopped midway and looked towards Sid and clicked his tongue once again. He couldn't risk his position if the kid decided to snitch on him. So he just changed the question. What did Master Xenon say about this? He allowed it and said to just follow orders for now and release him. Hearing this Sid opened his eyes and swung both of his arms breaking away from the chains that were holding him up. He started rotating his shoulder and turned towards the guy holding the whip. Both of the guards just had their mouths wide open in shock as Sid held out his hand and asked, "Can I get my uniform back? I don't want to go outside without a shirt." The guards nervously backs away into a table and reached backwards grabbing the shirt. He then stuttered while giving it to him. Why yeah, here you go. Sid without any emotion on his face nods his head and says thank you. Sid then used his magic and started healing his back although slowly. When it was healed he put on his uniform and exited the chamber. Once he was outside and away from everyone's view two shadow figures appeared right next to him. They were both Igris and Beru. Igris had this solemn silence to him not his usual peaceful one, while Beru showed an enraged expression with tears unwillingly coming down his eyes. "My liege, why would you allow yourself to go through such torment? There was no need for such a thing to happen," Beru said in a soft low voice. Igris didn't say anything and just nodded his head agreeing with Beru. Sid just sighed before explaining his reasoning to them. "It was a punishment for myself. I wanted that to be my punishment for killing that maid a few years back. Although normally one doesn't decide their punishment, I felt that was the most fitting one inch." Beru still looked enraged not liking what he was hearing one bit. "So what if she died my lord? Didn't you revive her? That worthless being should have been honored to be killed by someone of your caliber. Being killed by your gracious hands should be something that she should celebrate. So forgive me for still not understanding your actions my lord. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself but please let me be the one to go and hunt them down myself, right here and now." Sid patted both Igris and Beru on the back as he said, "You don't have to understand. Think of this as something I had to do for myself to be able to have a peace of mind. I allowed that to happen to show myself that my actions have consequences. And Beru, I already said later, if you killed them now then the first one they will suspect is me. And then I would have to fight an entire kingdom. Although such a thing is fairly easy it's not worthwhile and would serve no purpose." Both Igris and Beru reluctantly nodded. Igris cause he accepted Sid's explanation, while Beru nodded since he had no choice but to follow his master's wishes. They both then slowly sank back into his shadow. And Sid made his way towards the populated area. While making his way through the crowd Sid just randomly said, "Meet me back at my dorm room." The hooded figure that walked past Sid just nodded its head and silently disappeared into the crowd. Sid just slowly made his way back towards the school ignoring all the odd looks he was receiving and made his way towards his dorm room. As soon as Sid opened the door to his dorm room, he found Alpha sitting on top of his study table wearing the female school uniform. The blouse of said uniform already had a few buttons undone showing her amazing cleavage. Pics. Sid just gave Alpha a sly smirk as he closed and locked the door behind him. Alpha while leaning back on the table wiggled her index finger calling Sid towards her with a seductive smile plastered on her face. When Sid walked over, Alpha reached out her hand and grabbed Sid by his tie and pulled him into a deep long kiss. While their kiss turned more passionate with every second, their tongues came out and started to wrestle with each other. "Ah, my lord." Alpha moaned in Sid's mouth as she felt Sid's hand take a hold of her thigh. They slowly backed away from each other, the only thing connecting them was a string of saliva as an aftermath of their tongues' battle. Alpha wrapped her long and tender legs around Sid's waist and pulled him closer. With their forehead pressed against each other, Alpha looked deeply and sensually into Sid's eyes as she demanded, "Take me, my lord, right here and now. There's no need for foreplay as my insides are always wet and longing for your touch." Sid just gave her a smirk as he lowered his pants slightly, taking his cock out from their confines. He took a hold of Alpha's waist and brought her closer to his crotch. Sid lifted her skirt slightly, showing her black lingerie, making Sid's cock even harder. He slowly and softly started to tease Alpha's private right through her lingerie, making the fabric that separated them soaking wet, which just caused Alpha to let out soft and subtle moans. My lord, please, I can't take it anymore." Alpha pulled Sid's head closer and whispered into his ear, "Please, I want to feel my husband inside of me." That was all Sid needed to hear. He brought both of his hands up her skirt and took a firm squeeze of her voluptuous butt. He then slowly moved a hand into her inner thigh and slowly moved her lingerie to the side with a thumb. He started to rub his member with her bottom lips, lubricating it. Once it was lubricated enough, he aimed his cock at her entrance and slowly made his way inside. Yes. With a final thrust, Sid's entire cock was enveloped in her wet and moist warmth, causing him to grunt slightly due to the pleasure. "Ah yes, Alpha moaned, slurring her words. Sid started to then slowly exit and enter her pussy. At first he started nice and slowly. Faster, my lord, please go fast air," moaned Alpha, which made Sid pick up the pace. Due to their motions, different kinds of sounds kept coming from the room. The sound of the table smashing against the wall, the squelching sound of their privates going against each other, and their moans and grunts. Yes, oh my god, yes, I feel complete with you inside me, I just can't get enough," moaned Alpha while making a face close to an HJO. Sid just kept fiercely thrusting his cock deeply into Alpha's pussy, making the tip of his cock penetrate right through the entrance of her cervix. Each time his tip would enter, Alpha would moan even louder in pleasure. "Ah, right there, I can feel you so deep, my lord, please don't stop. I am close, my lord, I am close, let's come at the same time." When Sid heard this, he felt Alpha's inner walls tighten around his cock, making it even more pleasurable. Thrust after thrust, her walls just kept getting tighter. When Alpha felt Sid's cock twitch inside of her, she knew it was time. Alpha unwrapped her legs around Sid, stretching them outward, giving Sid more space, making his thrust faster. And with one big final thrust, they both came at the same time. Splurt, 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 splurt. "Ah, I can feel it all the way inside my womb, I am going to get pregnant with my lord's child." Alpha's legs stretched even further, making her toes curl when Sid started coming deep inside her. Alpha had her arms wrapped around his neck for support as she was breathing heavily due to the high amount of pleasure she just experienced. Sid just took a hold of her thighs and made her wrap her legs around his waist once more. And with his cock still inside her, he picked her up. He just gave her a smirk and said, "Don't think we were only going for one round." Alpha gave Sid a lustful smirk back and said between heavy breaths, "I wouldn't dream of it." He then brought her and took her to his bed and started to slowly take their clothes off. And just like that, they spent the rest of the night unable to keep their hands off each other. 48, Chapter 48. Third person's POV. Both Alpha and Sid were laying in bed. Alpha was on top of him with his member still inside of her. If one were to look carefully, one would see Sid's cum flowing slightly out of Alpha. While Alpha was snuggling with Sid, she started sharing her report. "The Night Order is most likely infected with members of the Diabolos cult. They wanted to use you as a scapegoat due to your close relationship with the princess, which I still don't understand why you let people think you were in a special relationship with her. Our sword instructor is a high member of the cult. He's close to becoming a member of the Round Table. He wanted to use Alexia for her blood and resurrect the demon Diabolos, thus securing his position. Although Alexia didn't know this, she still had a bad feeling about the guy. And the guy, in order to get her blood, proposed to her in order to capture her. Alexia didn't want to get married to him due to her previous bad feelings about him, so she asked me if I wanted to enter a fake relationship with her, so he would stop bothering him. And you know the rest. Since I was her supposed boyfriend and due to my no strength, they thought it was a good idea to get rid of me by blaming their kidnapping of her on me, thus killing two birds with one stone." Alpha then gained a smugged expression. "As expected of my lord is already aware of the situation. I would have expected nothing more. So what's the plan?" Before they could continue their conversation, a letter was slipped under the door of their room. Sid, seeing the letter, raised a brow and used ruler's authority to bring the letter to his hands. He didn't even bother opening it and just passed it to Alpha. Alpha, although reluctantly, sat up and got off Sid's member with a moan. "Mum." When she got up, one could see a tiny bulge in her stomach due to the amount of cum inside her. Alpha looked at the bulge in amusement. She then started to press down on it, pushing all the cum out of her. While it was coming down, she started to giggle at it, which was followed by her puffing up her cheeks and making noises with her mouth, plop, 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 plop. Snickering. Hearing a snicker, Alpha turned her head and saw Sid turning his head with a red face, while covering his mouth with a hand to stop himself from laughing out loud. Sid turns his head to look back at Alpha, who is just looking at him with her cheeks puffed, and as soon as they make eye contact they both burst out laughing, enjoying the moment together and finding it the funniest thing ever. After Sid cleaned up everything with his magic, Alpha laid back down in his arms and held up the letter so they could both read it together. When she opened it, she read the letter out loud. If you want Alexia back safe and sound, come to the forest path behind the academy. When Alpha read the letter she just laughed at it and burnt it from existence. She then reluctantly left Sid's arms and sat on the edge of the bed. She summoned slime from her shadow and got dressed. She turned her head and gave Sid one final kiss before going to the window and sitting on the ledge. I'll go and get the girls and get everything ready. You don't have much to worry about, my lord. Today is the day the world would finally learn of Shadow Garden. I can't wait. Alpha winked as she blew Sid a kiss as she seamlessly fell backwards from the window, completely disappearing. Sid just chuckled at that and sat up. He got dressed and went to his classes like nothing happened. When it was lunchtime, Claire came running from out of nowhere and wrapped Sid in a tight hug. They didn't do anything mean to you, did they? Claire started to look at all over Sid's body by lifting his shirt and everything. Sid, patting her head, reassured her, relax. Did you really think they are capable of doing anything to me? Claire, who still have her arms wrapped around his waist, just pouted. Just cause you can't be killed doesn't mean you can't be hurt. I swear, Sid, if you got hurt because of that stupid bitch, I swear I'll kill her, and no matter what you say you wouldn't be able to stop me. Sid just softly smiled as he patted her head once again. You can relax, nothing happened to me. Beru wanted to come out and protest, but a warning look from Sid shut him up. Claire narrowed her eyes at him, not believing him 100% but still chose to believe him. Claire then started pouting once again. You know, I was totally going to go and bust you out of there and kill that bitch there and there, but stupid Alpha stopped me from doing so. Even though Claire just called Alpha stupid, one couldn't detect a hint of malice in her voice. She said to trust you, that you must have a plan, since you always think 10 steps ahead of your enemies. I had no choice but to believe her, so don't think I abandoned you, okay? Sid, exasperated at this point, just sighed. Yeah, don't worry about it, I believe you. Claire spent the rest of the lunch period being extra clingy towards Sid and annoying him every chance she got. By the end of the school day, Sid was standing on top of the school rooftop with Beta kneeling to his side. Sigh, Beta, what are you doing kneeling? We talked about this, we're married, you don't have to do that. Beta, nodding her head, said, we may be married, my lord, but Beta is forever your follower first and foremost. Sid just waved her off and said, yeah, I get it, you can get up now. So did Alpha send you? Beta nodded. That's right, my lord. Alpha wanted someone to be here with you at all time when you go deal with the ambush the cult has planned out for you. Sid just nodded before jumping down from the roof, which was followed by Beta. As Sid turned the corner, an object was thrown at him, which made him instinctively catch it. It was Alexia's loafers. Oh, look at what we have here. If it isn't Mr. Sid Kajina with Princess Alexia's shoes. And what's this? There's still some of her magic power lingering around it. Sid was soon surrounded by 30 guards who all had a sinister expression. Beta had an enraged expression and was about to make a sword using her slime suit, but Sid stuck out his hand, stopping her. Sorry, Beta, I already promised someone the special privilege of dealing with them. Due to Beta's high mastery of her stealth skill, it was like she wasn't even there, so the guards grew confused when they saw him talking to himself. Sid's eyes then glowed a bright purple color, which made the guards draw out their swords from their scabbards. Sid only said 2 words afterwards. Arise. Beru. Beru came out of Sid's shadow and let out a loud cry announcing his presence. The guards started shaking in fear due to the amount of magic power Beru was releasing. Just who is this monster? One of them screamed. Due to how freaked out they were, they all started running with their sword raised ready to attack. Beru, who was enraged at what happened to his liege earlier, didn't have time to play with them and just went on the offensive attack. Beru, in the blink of an eye, appeared in front of one of the guard and plunged his claws into the guard's chest, ripping out his heart. Beru, disappearing from their view, reappeared and lifted a guard up and ripped him in half, spilling out all of his guts and intestines. He then disappeared and reappeared in front of another guard, gripping him in place and biting the guard's head off with his mandibles. Again and again and again and again. Beru would disappear from their view and reappeared, killing off a guard more violently than the last. The guards tried running away, but they couldn't escape Beru's speed. The only sound that could be heard were the sound of agony from the guards and their last breath. With the very last guard, Beru injected his claws into the guard's head and ripped him in half from head to toe, showing what his insides look like from the brain to the lungs. Everything just fell out from the guard. When Beru was done, he let out a roar to the sky as he was surrounded by the bodies of his majesty's enemies, signifying his victory. When he was done, Sid enveloped himself in his shadow, fully entering his persona of Shadow, the leader and owner of Shadow Garden. Shadow turned towards Beru. Good job. Beru quickly dropped to one knee and bowed, showing his gratitude for such praises. Return, Beru. Beru bowed once again and sank into Shadow's shadow. Let's go, Beta. It's time the world finally knows who truly rules the place from the shadows, said Shadow as they both disappeared from where they were with a wave of his coat. Shadow appeared on top of the tallest building in the capital. The clock tower behind him stood 8 beautiful women who were awaiting his order. Alpha stood back a little with a hand on her sword as her hair flew freely in the wind. Beta stood opposite to her, adjusting her glasses with one hand. Next to Alpha sat Gamma, floating in her broom with her witch hat in full display. Next to Beta sat Delta on all fours with a battle-hungry smile, excited about her future battle. Next to Gamma stood Epsilon, swinging around her new weapon, an axe in the shape of a guitar. Next to Delta stood Zeta while brandishing her chakram with a small smile. Next to Epsilon stood Ada with her lab coat made out of dark slime flowing against the wind, with her droopy eyes ready for action. Adelphi, Claire, stepped forward and stood next to Zeta and with a serious expression put on her mask, as this will be the first real mission as a group she will be part of. Shadow stood at the edge of the tower with his hands in his pockets. He closed his eyes as he felt the wind blowing on his face. When he opened his eyes, they started glowing a beautiful violet color, and while looking at the capital he spoke in a deep tone. "Arise, my shadow soldiers." All over the capital multiple shadows started coming to life and appearing everywhere. Shadow then looked at both sides before speaking to everyone. "Tonight is the night everyone shall learn the true might of the Shadow Monarch, am I clear?" The girls then all smirk as they replied at the same time, "Of course my lord." Shadow nodded before stepping over the ledge, completely dropping down with his hands still in his pockets and his cape flowing fiercely against the wind. All the girls then jumped from the tower performing their own moves as they spread out and made their way through the capital. Author's note: if y'all can't tell by now, I like writing edgy chunny scenes. I had too much fun writing this chapter. I think it turned out fantastic, but y'all can tell me otherwise. Hope you enjoyed it. 49, Chapter 49. Author's note: this is for all of my pookies, 3 you know who you are. This is also as an apology for baiting y'all with a chapter yesterday. Well, enjoy. Third person's POV. Iris was looking out the window from her office with tears in her eyes. "Just where are you, Alexia?" she muttered. "BOOM. What?" Iris said, confused, and looked closer onto the capital. She saw smoke come up from the middle of the capital. When she saw it, her eyes opened wide in shock. "The capital is under attack, damn it. Alexia could be in danger. Guards." Iris calls out, and as she did, 2 guards burst the door open with their sword in hand. "Yes, princess." "Are you okay, princess?" Iris shook her head. "I'm okay, but the capital isn't, it's under attack. Go and gather all the other and let's move and stop these terrorists that think they could do what they please in my kingdom." "As you command, princess," said both of the guards as they quickly left and went to do what they were told. Iris just grips her sword tightly until her knuckles turn white. "I swear, I don't know who you are, but if something happens to my sister there will be hell to pay." And with that, Iris runs out of the office. She went and commanded the rest of the knights available. Just when Alexia was about to start speaking again to the creature to her side, the lanky scientists came running down with rapid speed while cursing like a sailor. "Shit, shit, 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 they're here, why now when I just came this close to discovering the secret to reviving the demon? Fuck, why couldn't they just stay in the countryside and deal with our small bases like they always have?" Alexia, hearing this, grew smug, thinking they were here to rescue her. "It must be the knight's order, my sister must have found me. Finally I can get out of this shithole. I still have to be careful, this weirdo can still use me as a hostage." Alexia then spoke to the lanky man. "Hey, why don't I make you a deal? You release me and I can talk the Night Order to not hurt you, what do you say?" "Night Order? You think I give a fuck about the Night Order? You think we would have went and taken you if we feared them? No, they're the least of our problems. I know what I must do. I must drain her of all her blood before I escape. It's the only way for me to complete my research and escape." The lanky man then grew angrier and started kicking the monstrous creature. Morons all of them, why couldn't they just take care of them? Even that stupid OLBA couldn't stop them. Dumbass every single one of them. "Stop it. You're hurting it," cried Alexia. The building then started shaking as dust flew everywhere. "Fuck. They're already here." The guy now was gripping his hair in panic. "Who's this that you keep talking about?" asked Alexia curiously. "If it isn't the Knight's Order, who else could it be?" The scientist didn't even answer, just grew more panicked. "They won't show mercy to anyone. Everyone that tries to stand in their way would just get slaughtered." Desperate, the scientists grabbed a syringe from his lab coat that was filled with bright red liquid. "There's no other choice. The only way to survive it to send you after them and maybe stall them for a while I escape. Although it wasn't perfect, it was close enough. Now go and show them a glimpse of the demon Diabolos." The scientists without mercy plunged the syringe onto the creature and injected it with the red liquid. The creature started to grow larger and larger while it roared in pain. The lanky scientists, loosing it, looked at the growing creature in fascination. Yes, this is it, it's beautiful." The chains that were holding the creature in place snapped due to the creature's height and strength. When it got freed, the first thing it did was squash the scientists with its large hands and claw. Squash. Alexia just looked at this in disgust, not expecting to see something so gruesome. The creature then swiped its giant claws at Alexia. Meanwhile, Alexia closed her eyes anticipating her death, but instead it broke her chains, sending Alexia flying and colliding into a wall. When she opened her eyes, she saw the creature escaping and destroying the walls in the process. Seeing this, Alexia sighed in relief, as she softly whispered, "See, even a big monstrous creature likes me. I'm sure his wives will like me as well." Alexia then got up and saw a sword laying around on the ground. Picking it up, she swung it around. "It's not in the best conditions, but I can work with this." Just when she was about to leave, Xenon appeared looking worried. "Ah, princess, I was finally able to find you. come let's escape, it's going to be dangerous around here. Alexia didn't pay attention to him and just pointed her sword at him. How did you find me? Xenon just looked at her in confusion. I followed your magic signature, of course. Alexia didn't look amused. That's funny, throughout all of this I was in magic sealing chains. So how could you have found me? Xenon looked at Alexia for a bit before dropping all pretense. Ha 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 ha, you sure are one amusing princess, I'll tell you that. The creature that was taller than any building started going on a rampage, destroying everything in sight, leaving casualties in its wake. Iris came running at full speed and cut off the creature's arms, saving a couple of knights that were fighting the creature. She then turned towards the knights and asked, "Are you guys alright?" The knights all sighed in relief before one of them shouted, "Look out." But it was too late. The creature regrew its arm and swung it towards Iris, sending her flying and smashing onto buildings, making her head flow with blood, which she quickly stopped. She quickly got up and healed herself before running back towards the creature, cutting off more of its limbs, but the creature would just regenerate them back and strike Iris again and again, leaving her in a worse state than the last, making Iris click her tongue in annoyance. "Fine, I guess I'll just keep cutting you until you can't regenerate anymore." Iris then started to gather magic power and spread it throughout her whole body, enhancing every part of it. The ground caved in due to the force of Iris' step, as she ran at full speed towards the creature. When she arrived in front of it, she started swinging her sword all over the place, cutting and amputating the creature over and over and over and over and over again. The creature started getting used to the cuts, and as it did, Iris's sword started doing less damage to it, making her click her tongue. The creature unexpectedly grabbed Iris by her leg and started smashing and swinging her all over the place, making Iris almost unconscious. Before the creature could do any more damage, Alpha came and cut the creature's arm that was holding Iris, giving her the time to perfectly heal herself. Even though she was still injured, she wasn't at the verge of unconsciousness anymore. Alpha then turned towards Iris, and all Iris saw were golden dragon slits staring deep at her. "I'm going to have to ask you to stay out of the way. You're too weak to be in this type of fight, and you're only hurting her." Iris, hearing this, grew enraged. "Weak? Me? Who does she think she is?" Before Iris could express her displeasure, Alpha disappeared from her view and reappeared in front of the creature with a slime sword in hand. And while in the air, she said softly with a warm smile, "Don't worry, everything is going to be alright, we'll get you the help you need." She then closed her eyes, swung her sword with grace, cutting the creature in half. All that was left were steam due to the creature. Iris just looked at this in shock. "Fast. I didn't even see her move, and her sword movements were so beautiful." "Just who is she?" Iris carefully asked. "Just who are you?" Through the steam one could see her silhouette holding up the body of a little child. The only thing that were visible were her golden dragon eyes. "The name is Alpha, a member of Shadow Garden, the leader of the 7 deadly sins, the sin of pride. That is all you need to know." And with that, Alpha completely disappeared from all of their views, while Iris just mutters, "Shadow Garden." 50, Chapter 50. Author's note: while we reached Chapter 50. Enjoy. Third person's POV. Before Alpha disappeared, she picked up the pendant of the little girl she was carrying. When she disappeared, Iris clenched her fist until her palm almost bled. Shadow Garden, I'll remember that name. Alexia, when faced with Xenon, started thinking back to all the lessons it has taught her about magic and enhancing herself. She let the magic flow from her magic circuit onto her entire body, making it stronger, and with a kick to the ground she disappeared from where she was standing. She appeared in front of Xenon with her sword already in motion, ready to strike him. Xenon wasn't expecting for Alexia to be that fast, so due to her unexpected speed, Xenon blocked the attack in an awkward position. He, while giving her a smirk, said, "Will you look at that, the little princess has gotten a little stronger." With that, he pushed her back, giving himself some breathing room. This time he decided to not underestimate her. He enhanced his figure with magic and started attacking her, swinging his sword at all her weak points, the head, the neck, her heart, anywhere where she would be in critical damage if his attack landed. But Alexia wasn't letting those attacks hit. She was blocking those attacks like she had experience blocking them. Luckily, Sid would always target those spots while sparing, so this guy's pathetic attacks are easily predictable. That just goes to show how amazing Sid is. It was only for a short 2 months and his teachings are saving my life. I think I'm falling deeper in love. When Xenon tried to plunge his sword into Alexia, Alexia parried it by laying her sword on top of his, causing sparks to fly. Alexia grinded her sword on his, creating a counter-attack. When she got close enough, she made a diagonal cut across his chest. The cut was extremely shallow due to Xenon enhancing himself, but that didn't mean it didn't anger him at being cut by someone he considers weaker than him. "You bitch, just cause I went easy on you, you think you can go around and hurt me." Xenon further enhanced himself and arrived in front of Alexia and swung his sword at full force and speed. Alexia tried to block it, but her sword was already battered up before she picked it up, causing it to break on impact. Luckily, Alexia was already anticipating such actions as she moved out the way just in time, and in that quick action she lowered her posture. She put her fist by her hand and elbowed Xenon at the very core of his being. Xenon just went sliding backwards. He looked at Alexia in shock while he held his stomach in pain. How the hell did you grow so strong in such a short amount of time? That's impossible, you're supposed to be an easy target. Alexia then got into a martial arts stance and with a smirk said, "You can just say I had a fantastic teacher." While Alexia was dealing with her opponent, the member of Shadow Garden were doing their own thing. Epsilon was seen in front of a group of cult guards who had their swords drawn and ready to engage at her. Epsilon didn't pay them any attention and started treating them like audience members. I want to thank everyone for coming today for my special performance. My name is Epsilon, the sin of envy, and get ready to have your world rocked. Epsilon swung her arms in a circular motion against her axe guitar, enhancing the sound with sound magic, blasting the surrounding area with her music. As soon as she added sound magic, all of the guards started going on their knees from the pain of having their eardrum busted, which caused them to bleed from their ears and scream in pain. Argh, make it stop, make the ringing stop. Epsilon just started giggling and skipping her way towards them. Nope, she said, knowing full well they couldn't hear her. She then got in front of a cult guard and swung her axe at him, completely decapitating him. With a giggle she skipped her way up to the next cult guard and the next until they were all exterminated. She then bowed towards the corpses. Thank you for being such an amazing audience. Gamma was seen flying all around the capital while laughing behind her hand. Ho 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 ho, cough cough cough. After patting her chest, Gamma cleared her throat much better. Gamma then saw a group of the Night Order going over to the members of Shadow Garden, ready to attack them from behind while they dealt with members of the cult guards. Gamma reached in between her chest and pulled out a long wand that fit perfectly in her hands. She kissed the wand and said, "Thank you, Lord, for your blessing." Gamma pointed the wand towards the knights and conjured a wall out of earth, stopping their advances. "I will not let you interfere in the affair of Shadow Garden, so stay put." One of the knight clicked their tongue in annoyance. Why should we listen to her while our members are out there being killed by these black monsters? They're probably the possessed. They're controlling them and attacking our kingdom. How despicable. Quickly, let's destroy this wall so we can save our fellow knights. The knights then started enhancing themselves and started slashing at the wall Gamma made. Seeing this, Gamma pouted. How annoying. She waved her wand once again and encased the entire order in a block of ice, stopping their movements completely. Not knowing if they can still hear her, she still said, "I don't know if you can still hear me, but it will melt eventually. In the meantime, just sit tight." One of the guard who did hear her and had just his head sticking out of the ice screamed out, "Just who are you, you crazy witch?" Gamma just smirked at the question and laughed at the back of her hand again. Ho 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 ho, I am known as Gamma, the sin of greed. But that's all I'm willing to share. Gamma, wiggling her fingers, waved them goodbye, toodaloo. With that she started doing her witch laugh and flew off into the distance where the other members of Shadow Garden may need her help. Beta was jumping building from building while holding a bow made out of slime and cocking it back and conjuring arrows of different elements. When she saw her Lord's shadow soldiers, she would help them out even though they didn't need it by shooting an arrow into the knee or wrist of the cult guards, which would give the shadow the perfect opportunity to land the decisive blow and killing them. Even though her help wasn't really needed, Beta made their job quicker. Beta pulled back on her bow and summoned 3 arrows with her wind magic and fired them all the way to the other side of the capital where one of the shadow members they were training was getting ambushed. All 3 arrows quickly arrived and they all penetrated through the head of the cult guards doing the ambushing. Beta quickly summoned 2 arrows made out of ice and fired it at the feet of knights that were unnecessarily fighting the members of Shadow Garden. Once they landed, the feet of the knights froze completely, which gave the members of Shadow Garden the perfect chance to leave and continue with their mission. Beta sighed and once again pulled back on her bow. I guess no one will ever know about the sin of lust, if I'm going to forever be an archer. All my enemies are going to be dead long before they have the chance to even know me, and some won't even be able to spot me. I guess that's the sad life of Beta, the sin of lust.
Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.